Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow is underway on this Tuesday edition. We are live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Great show today. John McClain has covered the NFL for 5 decades now. He will be with us talking all things NFL headlines, discussion, opinion, and more. Get his big takeaways. That's coming up in hour number 2. Plus, in 2 hours from right now, Big Shot Robert Horry joins us, 7-time NBA champion. We'll preview the tip-off of the NBA season. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. Excited for today's lineup. Plenty to get into throughout the day, too. Not just football today we're going to be talking.
MLB postseason.
Yeah.
We've got but
cheating scandals. We've got more Connor Stallions news out there. All of the investigative journalists on social media are at it. We've got photos, we got videos, we've got everything.
This is where the NCAA gets it. This is where they have their investigative team. It's the media. It's what used to be just Yahoo Sports, or you had the solid writers that did their digging, and then they came back with like a 6-month investigation piece. Not much of that going on anymore. But whenever you throw a little bait in the water, you have all the journalists going back on the tape, the sideline video, to see if they can zoom in and find Connor Stallions. And man, have they. Dude was everywhere.
Well, it's not, I've heard this, it's going to be difficult to prove type idea, right? If someone's out stealing signals or doing this and that. And I think on its face, yeah, if you're doing it the right way, if someone associated with Michigan, that's a high school football coach somewhere or something, is deciding to go on all these Big Ten games and they're paying money through their own account to get tickets, and then they're sending information back some way or going and meeting with some Michigan correspondent, not sending it via text, not sending it via email, anyone could do that. Anyone can buy a ticket in a certain spot, go to a game and attempt to steal signs, and then get that back to their team of choice. But it's very easy to prove when Connor Stallions is the one Venmoing people and GAs to go to games, when he's there studying the signals from the other side, when there's placards available of hand signs that he's showing the Michigan coaches, when he is, through his own, I guess, Ticketmaster account, I don't know how he does it, is buying suspiciously one seat on each side to watch the other side during Big Ten games. Yeah, I wonder how that could be. Point is, it's very simple. If there's electronic trail, and if someone's buying tickets out of their own account to make it happen, extremely easy to prove this. And we're starting to see a lot of that evidence now.
Chad, we will dive deeper into all of the reports and video that have been out there on social. That's coming up later in the show. Hey, let me raise my hand. I am dead wrong. I was dumb last night for Monday Night Football. The Minnesota Vikings are absolutely back in the playoff mix at 3-4. They are one of 4 different NFC teams right now at 3-4. And currently, after last night's upset win over San Francisco, they have the 8th spot in the NFL playoff picture as we go into Week 8. And that means they're the first team out. But looking up ahead of them, they have teams that can certainly falter. And Minnesota has a team that can absolutely start stringing together wins. The upcoming schedule, not all that daunting. They've just won 2 straight, and they've done it without Justin Jefferson. And for all of the discussion over the last 2 weeks about the Vikings need to be sellers and whether or not Kirk Cousins would waive the trade, he's not going to do that. He's staying. We know he's unlikely to be back with the franchise a year from now because of big contracts elsewhere. They're going to pay Justin Jefferson. They've already paid T.J. Hawkinson. They have a great young receiver in Jordan Addison who put on a show last night. Great touchdown takeaway and score right before the halftime last night. Point being, they took down San Francisco and a 7-point favorite on the road, the 49ers. That was the 3rd largest upset victory for Kirk Cousins against the spread in his career. He had been awful in prime time. He was excellent last night. And while they didn't put up a ton of points, the defense showed up for they're finally starting to come together on that end of things with Brian Flores. And they're doing enough to stay on the field offensively. The biggest throws Cousins made was to keep the 49er defense on the field and keep the offense off. And they did it. However, I think instead of Sellers, they're definitely not that. I don't think you can just say, hey, we have Addison. We're getting Jefferson back. We have Hawkinson and Cousins. Last year, we won a lot of close games. I think they need to be buyers as they hit the deadline. And just pieces like Cam Akers. They've already traded for him with L.A. They have Madison. I just don't think Madison is that big moment back. And Cam Akers was disgruntled and couldn't get along with Sean McVay's offense with the Rams. And defense, I think they could use a piece or two, role players, puzzle pieces. If they can do that, they have the talent available to not just be a playoff team, but to be that team this year that can get in on the back end of the schedule and then go on the road and win. But they have to be built to do that. And that goes with the run game, a consistent one you can turn to in short yardage, and defensive play. They had that last night against who many assume and believe, I did, San Francisco, to be the top team in the NFC. Could be Philly now. Could still be San Fran. You look around, and again, there are a lot of teams that are good, not great. Minnesota's one of them. But they absolutely have the chance, Chad, to jump back in the mix after last night's win on Monday night.
Yeah, super impressed with Minnesota last night. I like you, Hutton. I thought Minnesota would cover when we were making our picks yesterday. I didn't think they were going to win outright, but that's a huge win. And when you look at that division now, the Lions are still really good.
They're winning, I think.
Yeah,
but you don't know.
The Vikings, to me, are pretty clearly second in that division with the way Green Bay is spiraling.
And they have a matchup this week
against have their
Green
problems.
Bay.
So they're clearly the second best team there. And Kirk Cousins once again shows that when you give Kirk Cousins time, the guy's got pinpoint accuracy. He's putting the ball exactly where he wants when he is not under duress every single time out. And that's what he was able to do last night. Super impressed the Vikings. They've gotten themselves right back into the season. They won. Everything's now in front of them. For the 49ers, 2 losses in a row. So they're facing a little bit of adversity right now. I still think they're going to be fine, but they have not looked good the last 2 weeks. You could blame some on weather a week ago in Cleveland and some weird circumstances in that one. Can't blame weather in this game in Minnesota. So this is now back-to-back weeks where they've struggled.
Yep, and they've got ahead of them, you mentioned San Francisco, Seattle is right behind them. The Rams are in playoff contention. They're among the teams with 3 wins right now, surprisingly. That division seemingly 2 weeks ago was under lock and key to San Francisco. Who knows with the way this NFL season's playing out. 2 weeks later, the narrative changes quickly. From a team that destroyed Dallas and took care of business to now back-to-back losses and everyone asking, what's really going on within that defense? Because the defense hasn't been as dominant over the last 2 weeks. That's where they've got to pick up the pace and be the Niners team that went into week 6 as an unbeaten. Chad, maybe all it takes is just Creed in the locker room. Maybe that's it.
Hey,
Kirk Cousins says they're 2-0 when they listen to Creed.
It's working.
Turned on higher right before kickoff.
Works in here, too. Davey walks in every day singing Creed, and I immediately start singing Creed also in my head throughout the day. So there's something about that band that's a real earworm. When you hear Creed, you can't unhear it, and in fact, you hear it for the next 3 or 4 weeks over and over again. I've got With Arms Wide Open blaring in my head right
higher?
now.
That's what he said they were listening to last night.
Yeah,
higher.
Apologies to anyone else that just hears the word Creed that I just said and now can't get a Creed tune out of your head. For me, it's With Arms Wide Open. For others, it may be higher. For Kirk Cousins, it's higher. But apologies if you can't get Creed out of your head like me.
Chad, from buyers who, I think Minnesota should be a buyer at the deadline, even on the low end. They have 7 picks. They've acquired some picks in recent trades. Who's the seller right now in the NFL? A deadline 1 week from today.
It's the Tennessee Titans, and they sold yesterday with Kevin Byard. Speaking of buyers, the Eagles are a buyer, and they bought Byard, who is a great player for the Titans. Having a down year this year, but that's in large part because Rand Carthon, the new GM, walked in and his first order of business was to ask him to take a pay cut, which was not received well, clearly, from Kevin Byard. I'm not sure that Byard was ever bought in to this direction of the Titans. I think he feels a lot of loyalty to John Robinson, who drafted him and who believed in him and who stood behind him, and probably felt betrayed when the new guy came in. And, hey, he's doing what he has to do for salary cap purposes and everything else with how they want to build. He's doing business, and Kevin Byard didn't like that business. And now, not even that deep into the season, Kevin Byard is on his way out with the Titans. This is one of the big question marks moving forward now in the NFL. We all saw Mike Vrabel joining the Patriots Hall of Fame, sitting in a luxury suite next to Robert Kraft in his red Patriots coat. We all saw Mike Vrabel in his acceptance speech talking about to the Patriots fans, hey, understand how good you have it up here. I've been trying to recreate this everywhere I've been, and I've been unsuccessful. Know how good you have it because I've been different places, and it's not like this. Who could he be talking about? Well, Mike Vrabel played for the Steelers. I don't think he's talking about that organization. Played for the Chiefs. Maybe he's talking about them. The Texans, where he was a coach, certainly could be talking about him. He could also be talking about his current job with the Tennessee Titans, where he's tried to recreate that Patriots way, and it has worked to some degrees, but it's not working this year with this group. So the Titans' decision now, which I believe is fully led and endorsed by Mike Vrabel, regardless of what he says, he is the ultimate decision maker. They don't become sellers without Mike Vrabel coming in and saying, I'm okay with this. I'm still going to go out there and try to win, but we need to pivot to what's next. So do the Titans believe Mike Vrabel, who's done a good job in this first iteration of a successful Titans team, is the man to lead the organization into its next iteration of success? I think the answer is yes, but circle this day, or really yesterday, the day that Kevin Byard was traded. A leader, an all-pro, and a homegrown Titan. The day that he was traded as the nexus of what's next for the Tennessee Titans. Is Derrick Henry next? He's certainly on the trading block. I don't know that the Titans are going to get much for him at this point. Given his contract and his salary, someone will be inheriting. A lot of question marks about the Titans and their new direction. And I'll simply pose the question, is Mike Vrabel in this for the long haul with this Titans organization, or is he going to start to look around? And do you believe anyone else is in charge of the Titans other than Mike Vrabel? My answer to that is no. He's fully in control, and he's fully embracing now what is next for the Titans. And Hutton, what is next is a non-competitive rebuild. That is where this team is headed. They are not any good with Ryan Tannehill injured and mixing in Malik Willis and Will Levis at quarterback. This roster, this team, everything they did in the offseason, none of it has paid off. And they're not good. And they're about to bottom out this year. Is Mike Vrabel the one to lead them back to the promised land, or whatever the promised land is for the Titans?
Well, I think it certainly would be a bad decision if they let him go, if they fire him.
I agree.
At worst, you trade him because he's got, 4 years left on his contract, because I believe it matched up with John Robinson, who was fired in the first year of a contract extension with the Titans a year ago. So I think it would be a mistake to get rid of him. I don't think he's on the hot seat yet. But again, the hot seat would entail him being fired. The value for Vrabel right now across the NFL would be extremely high. And if we're just starting that discussion, I think it ends with a trade, not he's out. However, new general manager who was brought in to add depth for a team that has none. And going into yesterday, prior to the trade, they had 6 total picks, Chad. 3 of those were 7th rounders due to moves made by this regime and the previous that have not panned out whatsoever. I think I will circle not yesterday. I will point back to the yesterday plus this upcoming week, because I want to see if they're sellers on more than just Kevin Byard. I think they absolutely can be. Do they get what they need in return for Derrick Henry? Don't know that. $6.4 million is what he's owed the remainder of the schedule. If you want Derrick Henry, you have to pony up that. Plus, you have to have the draft picks necessary to get it done instead of the Titans just keeping him. Or, you're not doing it for a conditional 6th, for instance. At least I wouldn't do that. The other player is DeAndre Hopkins, who they signed this offseason and has panned out. He's been the one good signing so far. And that's the other player that would present some value to a team right at the deadline. He would be in that list, and it's a lengthy list right now across the NFL of vets with expiring contracts that are apparently for sale for teams that are 2 or 3 wins in, maybe less, and they know they're not at the same position, for instance, as Minnesota with their 3 wins. Looking ahead of what's ahead for them, you feel different if you're Cincinnati, right? Or if you're the Browns right now because of what you could be coming back from injury or what you've done and the consistent play that you've had instead of the up and down play. They weren't good with a healthy roster. And right now they're banged up at quarterback. It sounds like to me they're going to play 2 quarterbacks, Will Levis and Malik Willis, this coming Sunday against Atlanta. And they've only been giving Henry roughly 50% of the snaps that we're used to seeing, right? They can't stay on the field. Do they want to trade him? I think they would for the right value return. But, Chad, I don't know if they're going to get that. So I don't know if we see the fire sale that could be happening or trying to happen behind the scenes because you need some value in return to make it make sense. And you don't just give away players for 6th and 7th round picks where you throw in the towel in week 8, just like they did throw in the towel in the first week of December, when they fired John Robinson.
Well, they threw in the towel again yesterday from this year. And that's the message to a team that's used to winning division titles.
And you don't want to take a pay cut, they'll trade you anyway.
Nope.
Stay tuned. Major League Baseball postseason discussion next.
So there is a 26-year-old woman in Australia. Her name is Annie Knight. She is on OnlyFans. So that being said, this shouldn't be so surprising, but please wait for it. Annie is bragging about having slept with 300 people in 1 year.
What? 300.
That is basically one person a day, but she didn't even space them out to that degree. She admitted to sleeping with 5 people in one day. And FYI, I say people because Annie does not discriminate. She sleeps with both men and with women. And the best part is she refers to this promiscuous lifestyle as empowering. Yeah, I'd be empowered to go get checked for STDs, but not much else empowering about this behavior. But this is the mentality that is being developed among women. They are out to prove they can do anything a man can. If you could put me on camera for this, that would be great, because I feel very strongly about this. Women are always out to prove that they can do what a man can, though it's very hypocritical, because if you ask me, because I would bet that if a man did do this and had this type of behavior that he was engaging in, women would be the first people to immediately call him toxic. Now, I would also love to know the family dynamic of Annie, because strong chances are she didn't have a strong male role model growing up, as she would have learned that degeneracy is the ultimate form of self-respect. And again, she's 26. I have no clue if and when she intends to get married, but this is going to be a hard sell for a future husband, or even wife for that matter, since she considers herself bisexual, who has even an ounce of regard for themselves. And let's be honest, Annie, if you slept with 300 people in 1 year, how many in your lifetime?
Ouch. Don't do that math. All I can think about is Wilt Chamberlain, because Wilt said he had 10,000 women. I'm like,
how do you
do the math? If you do that, like, don't do the math. You don't want to do the math because it's disgusting. And you go, okay, I know you're trying to brag with your boys a little bit, but 10,000.
Do you think that was real, 10,000?
That was like, that's the legend,
yeah,
right, of Wilt. And it's like, that's almost statistically impossible.
I mean, that's just, okay, first of all,
you don't have time for a nap.
I was going to say, first of all, it's just beyond the idea of, like, that's just gross.
Yes,
and,
yes, besides all of that.
Like, that's one thing. But just, how do you, do you have to schedule appointments, or, like, do you literally just have to, like, go onto the street and be like, hey, you, come with me?
I've got a 6 o'clock, we got to get this in.
Because otherwise, I just don't even see how, like, because apparently, Annie says she goes on dating apps and finds a lot of her people.
Oh, boy.
So, like, I guess you just have to, like, learn how to build up a schedule in a way like that.
Well, my question for Annie is, why do you announce this? Like, why is this just for the OnlyFans? Is this does she think this is going to make her more profitable in that space by bragging about this? Because if it's true, you nailed it in your postscript, if you will. like you need to go talk to some people outside of the people that you're spending your time with.
Yeah, I think
Got
a lot of
issues
I think
there.
a lot of people are obviously looking for fame and in their 15 minutes, and I think for her this is her way of getting her 15 minutes, but it's just really disgusting, and I think she doesn't realize the huge disservice she's doing to herself for later on in life when she does realize.
Well, because those are real conversations you have with people that you actually end up spending time with.
Yeah.
Like, you don't necessarily want to go into the sordid past, but if you're bragging on OnlyFans,
all they have to do is a quick Google search, and then they find out, okay, actually you lied to me. It wasn't your 15 people like you said. It was actually 5,000.
315
in 1 year. Okay.
Sixth and Peabody, our location for the Tuesday edition. Hot Mike with Hunt and Withrow across the OutKick network. Chad, coming up, we've got on the bus, off the bus, plenty of questions to discuss across the NFL and college football, but we also have Major League Baseball, and at least one half of the World Series is set. Game 7 tonight between Philly and Arizona. But here is Texas, Tejas. The Rangers.
The Rangers, baby.
Headed to the World Series in a win against the Astros where every road team won. And I just don't know how a team that has been as clutch as Houston has been roster-wise, with the names that you could just start listing off, can't win a home game in this series.
The Astros are the only Major League Baseball franchise to ever lose a series by losing all 4 home games, and they've done it twice now. This year's ALCS,
okay,
and 2019 against the Washington Nationals in the World Series. Who else remembers those Washington Nationals winning a World Series? When I saw that fact, I'm like, oh, that was 4 years ago? The Nationals, who were god-awful now and completely sold off everything, were World Series champions. Crazy to think about that, but just a bad team at home throughout the year. Bruce Bochy.
Clutch.
Is he one of the greatest managers in the history of Major League Baseball? He's the first to ever take 3 different clubs to the World Series. And he takes the Padres to the World Series. He wins 3 World Series in the 2010s, the 20-teens with the San Francisco Giants, and now he's got the Rangers in the World Series.
Oh, and
incredible career
he's
for
12,
him.
He's 12 for 13 in elimination games.
That is
he's
something
lost
else.
1 elimination game. That's crazy, man.
That's something else. Now, look, I don't know the national interest in this Rangers team. That was great for the first part of the season. Fell apart a little bit after the All-Star break and then picked it back up to get in the playoffs. But talented group. Bruce Bochy, I mean, he's a legend at this point. When you look at his resume and what he's been able to do with different teams, they get into the World Series, and now we got another Game 7. So, Hutton, we were bemoaning the fact that it felt like every series in the postseason was too quick, and now we've got 2 Game 7s in the league championship series.
Oh, and yeah, they cruised in this game. Texas did 11-4, and you had Garcia raking in this. I mean, it was. He's been doing that all postseason, and that's, by the way, is what the Diamondbacks did yesterday. They started that game just like they were starting the games off against the Dodgers. Quick, fast, and by the 9th inning, it was, 5-1, and fans in Philly were pouring out of there.
Phillies fans were hitting the exits early.
They're very consistent, Philly fans.
And, man, what for the Phillies, it feels like they haven't really faced pressure yet this postseason in a weird way. They win the first 2 against the Marlins. They jump on the Braves in Game 1. I guess going back home 1-1 after the way they lost Game 2, some pressure in the series there, but they easily win in Game 3. So, and they end up winning in 4 games in that one. They jump on the Diamondbacks 2-0, coming back 2-2, a little bit there, but pressure-packed moment in Game 7 now for the Phillies with the Diamondbacks. I would
This is
ask.
their first
I would
Game
ask
7.
all America, name 3 Arizona Diamondbacks, and I doubt anyone could. You could probably say the same for the Rangers, honestly. And if it's Rangers Diamondbacks, what a story that would be about where Major League Baseball is right now, which is really good parity. I mean, you look at some of the top payrolls in baseball that aren't in the postseason: the Mets, the Yankees, the Padres, and some of these teams that, while they pay good money, especially the Phillies, for their roster, you're not at par with some of these other franchises with what they're paying in salary. So I think good stories with the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, but it still feels like to me, Hutton, as we get ready for this Game 7 between the Phillies and Arizona, the Phillies are still that team to beat.
I agree. And they've got, Suarez on the mound? You know him well going against the Braves.
Ranger Suarez was terrific
But
in
Nola's
the division series.
Nola's been really good throughout the year, right?
Yeah.
And he was not good yesterday.
He's
So
their
we'll see.
ace. Nola is most of the time. Zach Wheeler kind of becomes that ace in the postseason, it seems like. But Ranger Suarez was very, very clutch in the division series against the Braves.
Tickets are fairly easy for fans to get into the door, into the gates tonight. If it'll be a raucous crowd, but it's not anything close to what we were expecting to see on the get-in price. Where it's roughly $250 to $300, I believe, for upper deck Game 7, first Game 7 for Philadelphia ever, which is
140 years.
It's nuts
as
man.
a team, never had a Game 7.
And
Blew my
meanwhile,
mind.
think about, there's a bettor who placed a $1,000 bet in April on the Diamondbacks to win the World Series, 180 to 1 odds, and it changed, but not all that. They were plus 5,000 on June 10th to win the World Series. So if you're
Why didn't I jump on that?
they were leading the division, but no one believed they would actually do this
On June 10th?
on June 10th.
I don't think they were leading the division. The Phillies or the Diamondbacks?
No,
Oh,
Diamondbacks.
the Diamondbacks. Okay,
Diamondbacks,
yeah.
I'm saying.
I'm thinking if the Phillies were ever that, I should have really jumped on
no.
that because they struggled early in the year.
No, but there's a gambler who put a $1,000 wager on the Diamondbacks to win the World Series in April, and they could win $130,000.
Here's what I'd like to know about that gambler. All right, $1,000 on the Diamondbacks on June 10th to win it all. How many other $1,000 bets does that guy place? If you have that much money and are gambling that much, that's the great story that we hear about. How many other $1,000 bets did he place on other teams that didn't win the World Series, or that in other leagues that he's done that he's lost over the time? Now it all evens out if you hit on something like that with those long odds. But I'd like to know that part of the story.
But
also.
if it's a $1,000 bet on every team, he's making
Yeah, I'd like to interview the person
$100,000
to find out how many of those bets they're placing. If that's the only one you made of that amount, great, good for you.
But if
Probably meant placing a lot of bets. With
But if you take $30,000 and spread it across the league, and you hit on a 130 to 1 odd team that wins it,
yeah, you're just rooting for the long odds at that point.
Yeah,
you don't want the favorite to win.
well, yeah, and you end up, you make $100,000.
Yeah.
So, whoever this is feeling pretty good based on the way Arizona's been clutch recently. I'm with you though. They had the 8th worst odds to win the championship, and they're going against Philly, who, Chad, I'm with you, man. I still buy into the fact they win tonight, but Arizona's found the hot bats and the early starts, and that takes the crowd out of it there. That's what they did yesterday. They were booing during pitching changes last night, which I guess you would expect for Philly fans.
Yeah, that's kind of their thing. I watched the movie Invincible lately with my daughter, and that's a good look at Philly fans also in that movie. Good one with Mark Wahlberg there.
Philly fans are happy with the Eagles, though.
Kurt Schilling told us that 1993 Phillies were a team of destiny that did not win it. The 2001 Yankees, and he was on the other side of it, team of destiny that did not win it. His Diamondbacks won it that year. I still really feel like the Phillies are the team of destiny this year, destined to win it all. We'll find out soon enough whether or not that's the case if they're eliminated in this NLCS.
How about Chris Russo, who said, write it down, if the Diamondbacks win the next 2 games and win the series in 7 games, I will retire on the spot. If they win, I will retire on the spot. So Mad Dog's got the retirement on the line, and one guy's got a decent amount of a payout for Arizona to advance and win over the Rangers.
I mean, Mad Dog's made a lot of money, so this could just be him.
It makes $10,000 every appearance on First Take.
It could be just him, wanting an out at this point. He's like, I've really thought for a while about moving out to my cabin in Idaho and just ending this racket. So here's my chance. I really think the Phillies are going to win, so I'm going to put my neck on the line. But, if they lose, I can go ahead and it makes my decision for me. I don't have to make the decision on when to retire. I'll retire with that Phillies loss if they lose 2 at home.
Yeah, the quote. I've been wrong on Arizona from day one, and I would not be stunned if they won tonight. So I'm at Game 6. I would be floored. I'll say this right now. Write it down. If they win the next 2, I'll retire on the spot. So 5-1 yesterday was the final.
Do we think this is the first time that he said something like that? That a guy that goes by Mad Dog has ever threatened something that he's not followed through on?
No.
I'm willing to bet we could go through the archive of his show, and he has claimed something. He's like, I will set myself on fire. If the Yankees don't win this World Series this year, I will set myself on fire on air. I bet we can find a clip. We won't be able to play it, but I bet we could find a clip of him saying something like that at some point in his career.
Well, what if you're Sirius XM?
Oh, they're like, we invested a lot a lot of money in you.
Yeah, please don't retire.
Yeah, my buddy Jared Stillman will fill in for his time slot at that point, who's on Mad Dog Radio. It'll be a big get for him. We need to text Stilly and find out whether or not he's excited about the possibility that Mad Dog's going to retire. I guarantee he's wearing a Diamondbacks jersey today, so he can fall into that spot.
Or does he just play it back and say, I'm going to donate this instead?
Here's what I'll do. I'll take my next 2 weeks' pay, and I'll donate it to an Arizona children's hospital.
I don't think so here's, with the MLB season, Chad, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The World Series matchup of Texas against Arizona is not going to be one that is celebrated like we should be celebrating the season with the rules changes that absolutely crushed it, right? The pitch clock that seemed thrown together during spring training. Players adjusted, and it worked. More viewers, more winning franchises than that were losing franchises. They have made runs, exciting seasons, winning divisions, and fans were back. And meanwhile, you've got the other storylines of the owners that went all in, not winning it all. And yet the small markets or the rosters that really no average fan could name 3 or 4, as you mentioned, may advance. It's not going to advance past, I'll tune in if I flip past the channel. I think it's tough to sell it for MLB because they don't sell much of anything individually like they should. It's more team-based and big market-based, and that's where the eyeballs go throughout the season with their television partners. And that's why you don't know much about the Rangers or the Diamondbacks. It's not their fault. They've done it the right way. They've made trades at the deadline. They've acquired talent in the offseason. Meanwhile, the payrolls elsewhere can be low and you can still win. It just won't be celebrated as the season where some of the fans on the fence or just the average fan that would randomly tune in if there was nothing else on was actually watching on a more consistent basis. I was one of those. And even I was saying the postseason wasn't living up to my expectations based on what we saw down the stretch to win pennants.
I think here's ultimately the issue with Major League Baseball that they've got to face head on, and I don't know exactly the answer other than develop star power more across Major League Baseball. Here's the big issue. Hutton, you're dead on right. This was a season where rules changes were universally applauded by those on the fence about baseball that aren't huge fans, that said, oh, this is a better product. I might take in a few more games.
Right.
Or go to a few more games or watch a little bit more in the middle of the summer because I like these rules changes, while also being met in the middle by the dyed-in-the-wool, old-timey baseball fan who said, these rules changes aren't as bad as I expected because I hate change in baseball and I thought it'd be terrible, and it's not. It's better than I thought it would be. That is a big win for Major League Baseball. Here is where you reap the big losses. There's not enough people who truly care about baseball more than football. So while everyone will watch in the summer when there's no football and be into their team, it becomes a domino effect of people checking out when their team's no longer playing once football season hits. They got to find a way to get the masses of sport to pay attention to Astros Rangers the same way sports fans will pay attention to Bucks Falcons if it's a playoff game. Why? Because it's an NFL playoff game. And that's what we watch because we care more about football. That's the next frontier for Major League Baseball.
Yes.
It's got a great regional following. You follow your team, but to take that from the micro to the macro, from I am a St. Louis Cardinals fan to I'm going to watch every second of Game 7 between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Philadelphia Phillies. There's just not enough sports fans like that right now to make the dent that they need to make on television and in national interest when they go head-to-head with football season.
Well,
That's the big issue for them.
Well, the issue is it's more of the market interest than it is the league interest, right? With the NFL, you can have any team in the Super Bowl you want to.
Like I said,
But
St. Louis Cardinals fan from I'm only following the Cardinals to I'm watching every second of this playoff game because it's a playoff game, and that's why.
But the Cardinal fan may do that. They're among the best. Braves fans may tune in, but are Rays fans tuning in? Are Orioles fans tuned in to the series? I think that's where you've kind of had a disconnect, where your team's not that good and you've been disconnected from, in the O's case, you've been disconnected to the point where you just kind of tune it out and you're on to the Ravens, right? But the 2022 World Series averaged 11.6 million viewers, and that was down. That was the second lowest viewership draw in World Series history, second only to Dodgers and Rays in 2020. So, I mean, what did either team that wins tonight do against Texas?
11.6 million, you said?
11.6.
I got a number.
11.8.
I got a number to
11.8.
compare that with when we come back.
All right. Plus, we're on the bus, off the bus with NFL headlines next.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Vikings show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Vikings show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
So, Chad, 11.8 million viewers was the average for the World Series last year, which is a 6-game series between the Astros and the Phillies. 11.8. We were comparing just earlier about what does Arizona, Texas do, or Philadelphia, Texas pool for ratings in the World Series. Not probably something similar to that.
Yeah. So how does that compare to other sports that we talk about?
That was the second lowest, by the way.
Yeah. Tennessee, Alabama on Saturday did over 8 million viewers. It's one random game in the middle of the day on national television. It's way too close. That is the premier event for a professional sport, and it's baseball, America's pastime.
Yeah.
In one SEC game, 2 teams in the Deep South played each other, and that number nationally is really close to the World Series. That's where baseball's got to try to get. I don't know how they do it, but if you ever want to ask the question of, why are these guys not reading box scores and just recapping every single playoff game in Major League Baseball or talking about this, that's why. How much time have we honestly spent on Tennessee, Alabama this week? Not a ton. We've mentioned it. We've talked a little bit about it. That game, though, is pretty close to a World Series overall rating and number of people watching and number of eyeballs. That's where Major League Baseball, while when you separate it out and it's parceled, is very popular by individual team and individual market. When you look at it as a brand and its playoff product as a whole, it's got a long way to go.
Well,
we watch NFL playoff games just because. Not because our team is playing. Most of our teams are out of the playoffs by the time it comes around. We watch because the NFL playoffs are on. We need to... For baseball to take the next step, Hutton, they've got to get to that point where we're doing that with them as well.
We watch because they're on, but we watch even the regular season because it's on literally every network you can turn on.
Yeah.
Or streaming device.
Now, that's a different beast with the amount of games for Major League Baseball.
Amount of games,
availability.
but also, like, even if it's like big in certain markets and massive in individual markets, a lot of those diehard fans can't even see every single game based on the contracts and how Major League Baseball has this set up recently. It's been very difficult with games blacked out for the Rockies, for instance, because of whatever's going on with the television issues there. That's another factor here where even the diehards are complaining about not being able to see their team play in their market. That's a problem. And that's affected MLB, whereas in the NFL's case, you could log in and now you can get on YouTube and you can get every game that you want. Certain prices available, there it is. And the average fan isn't able to do that in Major League Baseball based on just how the bankruptcy issues took place.
Yeah, and that's what it's so regionalized. That's why any SEC game, which you hear Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, go ahead.
And if you don't understand
it's too regional.
Yeah, you don't understand
BS.
sports, you would say that it would be too regional, right?
That's BS.
The Southeastern Conference, numbers-wise, is way more national than the St. Louis Cardinals.
Chad, I would argue right now, you can wake up,
baseball team,
you can wake up in what used to be coast-to-coast radio. You're talking Yankees. You would talk Dodgers, LeBron, whichever coast he's playing on in any given year. and you're discussing the New York Giants and Jets, and it's all about East Coast, West Coast. You can wake up and talk any coast and mention Nick Saban, and it is a national brand. You can discuss Jim Harbaugh or Ohio State, Penn State, or Tennessee, Alabama, and it's a national brand. And those that don't get that are idiots.
Yeah. Well, and also,
dumb.
I would explain it to people who don't understand that this way. The SEC is the NFL of college football. College football is the number 2 sport in America behind the NFL. So if you're talking SEC or even Big Ten in some cases,
yes.
You're talking about the NFL of the second biggest league, second most watched thing going. That's the easiest way I can break it down. Simplest way I can break it down for those that don't understand.
Chad, the Dolphins, in-season Hard Knocks. Are you surprised that the Dolphins are all in for HBO's in-season Hard Knocks? I am a bit.
I'm shocked
I am.
that the NFL and HBO were able to get it this right twice in 1 year. Are you kidding me? They got the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, which was a huge hit, and the absolute team they needed
Jets
to get.
were forced.
Yes, Jets were forced. But I'm saying the fact they got it done. And then they get the Dolphins that, for me, Mike McDaniel's who I want to watch.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, bravo. Like, am I surprised that a team wants to do it? I don't know. I'm on the opposite side of this where I think you're foolish not to do it. And I don't understand the big, it's this huge problem. And, I mean, get over it. This is part of selling your sport and selling your own franchise. Like, I know that the NFL feels like they're above all of that and don't need to market themselves in any way, and they just don't want the distraction. And I understand the way coaches are wired for that. But me, the viewer, the lover of entertainment, bring it on. This is the absolute team I'd want to sign up for an in-season Hard Knocks.
Yes, and I think part of this is two factors. Why you don't want it as an organization in season is exactly what happened to the Colts in season, where they have that losing streak down the stretch. All they have to do is go and win in Jacksonville, and then you have the behind-the-scenes access where Carson Wentz is kind of laughing and smiling as he goes off the field into the locker room after that loss, and they're losing to Jacksonville yet again. They continue to do so as an organization without Wentz. And you have Jonathan Taylor and company just acting like pros and trying to act like, we just lost a playoff game in season. This sucks. Frank Reich's speech was nothing to behold. And you get an inside look of things that you probably don't want as a narrative on the outside. That's one area to look at. The other...
Well, it completely changed my opinion of Frank Reich.
Yeah, me too.
But that's a Frank Reich problem. I don't look at that. I think if you're an alpha coach out there, if you're looking at it like, man, this can make me look bad, then you got problems.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and
if you're going into it thinking, man, I don't know how I'm going to look on this thing because I give really lukewarm, limp post-game talks when we lose in disappointing fashion, then you're probably not cut out for it either way.
Well, and now you've got the Dolphins who are coming off a loss to Philadelphia, and the in-season, I believe, starts in November and runs to the end of the season. It'll be great. The other factor here is why the NFL loves this, international access. It's Dolphins, Chiefs in Germany. Don't get that twisted. They're taking NFL films with them on that, too.
They bringing a team to Munich also eventually? Is that the next frontier? Full European division?
Germany is a massive market for them with the sports betting. And I think that would be market number 2. They've wanted to get back for a while. And games sold out fast there, too. They've got a great game.
Yeah.
Kansas City and Miami. It's time to go on the bus, off the bus, as we hop aboard with Davey Hudson driving.
Guys, we will not be going to Germany on this trip. If we had a plane, we might make that voyage. But right now, we're going to stick the schedule. I'm just giving you a heads up. We're kind of all over the place.
All
We're
right.
at least going to start here in Nashville, and then we'll figure out where we're going after that. But we're going to start here in the great state of Tennessee. And the Titans will move running back Derrick Henry before the trade deadline next Tuesday.
I'm on the bus with this, but I'm on the bus as long as they get the return that they want. I think the market for Kevin Byard was a 5th and a 6th plus a player in return. I mean, are you doing that for a 5th and the 6th for Henry. It wasn't, by the way, a salary dump with Bayard. They'd already paid him $7 million up front on the contract that he was owed this year. In the other case with Henry, you'd have to have a team that is going to pony up at least something similar of a 4th or 5th, make it conditional, whatever, but also pick up the salary. It's very hard to do, but for a team that needs to rebuild and should have admitted it sooner, I'm on the bus with this, Chad.
I'm on the bus. I know the Titans want to make it happen after this Bayard move. It only makes sense. They're clearly turning the page and starting their rebuild, which is the smart move, by the way, is what they should be doing and thinking right now. I don't know that they're going to have a willing trade partner to give them what they want, but I think that they're going to compromise. I think they got fleeced on Bayard, personally, with that price that they got. I think they're going to get fleeced by someone else because they want to get rid of Henry, and they want something in return as opposed to nothing at the end of the season. So I think they're going to make the move.
According to Rossini, no interest in Henry at this point.
Be interesting if that changes. There were no big running back injuries this weekend. But, guys, we're going to go heading on up to Washington, D.C., and I think we all know that Ron Rivera will not be back next season. If you disagree, go ahead and stop me there. But Ron Rivera will not make it to the end of the season as the Commanders head coach.
Go ahead, Chad.
I'm gonna go off the bus. He is a well-respected guy around the league. I know Josh Harris is new, and maybe he wants to make waves. I think he makes waves with the next hire and the direction they're going to go. He's going to try to go big with that next hire. I don't think he's coming in going total scorched earth and firing Ron Rivera in season. They'll wait until after the season to make the move. I do think he's going to be gone at the end of the season. But I'm off the bus that it's happening in season.
See, I'm on the bus because Jonathan Allen's already popping off.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Publicly. Eric Bieniemy's the new offensive coordinator there. If you want to do an about face on what the organization was perceived to be, and while the clamoring for Bieniemy has had 16-plus interviews and hasn't landed one head coaching job, Harris can come in, take over the organization, and have Bieniemy as the interim coach, and he gets to prove it or not. But if you're going to do that, it's sooner rather than later. But Washington losing to New York, well, that's not a great sign for Ron Rivera because it's more of the same. And Harris did say publicly, for as great as Rivera has done in a terrible situation, and I say he was not applauded enough last year, given their record and given all of the distraction, it's about wins and losses. He needs to start winning now. Stack wins immediately. Otherwise, it's happening in season.
Guys, as we travel to our next stop, we'll be blasting Creed all along the way because we're headed down to Dallas, Texas.
Give me some Ambien.
Yeah, Davey only wanted to bring this up so he could mention Creed one more time.
Me.
That's not
is that all you listen
sort
to?
of on pitch there.
If it's not Creed, what are you listening to?
I love like 90s hits. Give me some
Boyz II
Matchbox 20, Goo Goo Dolls.
Matchbox 20, okay.
That's interesting because that's not in your like adolescent wheelhouse.
I
feel like a man of your age.
No.
Like, this is like me liking late 70s, 80s music more than 90s music.
I listen to a lot of Boston, Led Zeppelin, and my ringtone still to this day, just because I want to be the one guy that has music as his ringtone, is More Than a Feeling by Boston.
That's good.
And everyone's just like, why does he still have music? It's like, because I want to, and it stands out. So
I like 80s music, too. 90s music is more Hutton and I's wheelhouse, but hey, more power to you. Jump on the bandwagon. Jump on the bus with us.
There are very
on
few
90s music. We're all for it.
Oh, yeah, there are very few genres
What the hell was the
music
question
I will
again?
not listen to.
Rangers
Will
winning
the
the World
Rangers
Series?
win the World Series? I'm all on it. Go and take it.
I'm off the
Hashtag
bus.
go and take it.
I'm off the bus. I'm still in with the Phillies. Until proven otherwise, they're still alive. They got a Game 7 coming up today. Give me the Phillies.
The Rangers have flat out gotten it done. They flat out get it done. I'm on the bus with this because they have been the team in the postseason that's been relatively consistent. Philly has been until, the Diamondbacks, the young roster, all of a sudden got a spark. And, I mean, with the way the Rangers perform on the road, can they go to Philly and win? Sure. Arizona just did it.
Okay. All right. NBA season kicks off tonight. We're headed out to Denver, Colorado. And the odds of an NBA team are repeating are slim to none. I'm excited for our conversation with Robert Horry coming up. But will one of the 4 teams playing tonight win the NBA championship? That is Denver, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Phoenix Suns, or the Golden State Warriors. They are 4 of the top 6 teams in terms of odds to win it this year?
Now I'll answer quickly. Yes, one of the 4 teams will. It'll be the Phoenix Suns. That's who I placed a bet on earlier today to win it all. So
Decent
I'm
odds?
not going with Denver to repeat. The Suns are my champion.
I'm on the bus with this as well. It is one of these. I'm not saying it's a repeat, but it is one of the top 4 of the 6 you just mentioned that are playing tonight. And for good reason. The star power is all there.
Yeah, the Bucks and the Celtics have the best odds, both teams coming out of the East. I would anticipate one of those 2 teams representing the Eastern Conference, but hey, a long season ahead.
Coming up, more headlines, including the Falcons, who are coming to Nashville for Week 8. But the NFL is looking into the injury designation for Bijan Robinson, who played 1 snap. That's next.
Welcome into OutKick, the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us. If you're on YouTube, we say thank you for that. You can join Chad in the chat. If you can find the link on OutKick's X account, you can scroll up, or it's tagged at the top there. You can see that tweet or post. Plus, if you're listening to this great radio partner, we say thank you. Big thanks there.
Huge
Chad,
thanks.
Quick first hour. Coming up in 20 minutes, John McClain will join us. And an hour from right now, Big Shot Robert Horry, 7-time NBA champ and known for clutch shooting when it mattered.
I was thinking about this today, Hutton. I always said Big Shot Bob. Like I've got an uncle.
I've always said Rob.
I've got
Is it
an
Bob?
uncle that's Robert Withrow, but he goes by Bob. But no, I've heard both. Like I was thinking, I had this vision in my head driving over here today that I was going to say Big Shot Bob, and he was going to correct me.
Let's ask him.
And say Big Shot Rob. And then it was going to be very awkward because I was going to come back and say, well, I say Big Shot Bob. I've always wanted to correct someone on their own name on air. So I was going to say, no, it's Big Shot Bob. I wanted to get into an argument with Robert Horry on the exact nickname for him, but I've always said Big Shot Bob. You say Big Shot Rob.
That's what I've always assumed.
We can just throw it open to him and say, by the way, speaking of throwing it open to him, that guy's always wide open in clutch moments, I feel like. He was burying the shot, but it was always like the best players, the decoy, and Robert Horry is wide open in the corner to hit the game winner every single time.
So, and the other thing, too, that the players or anyone, you go however long with your name said a certain way, and then midway through, like a year and a half into a league or college or whatever, it's like, no, it's actually – my name is pronounced this way. It's like, well, no, I mean, why do you let it go that long with the entire media and fan base saying it one way?
The latest is Achane.
Instead of Achane?
Instead of Devin Achane, going with Devin Achane.
Well, do you think it was Achane because of the possible Heisman discussion prior to the start of last year for A&M?
I don't know.
Again, like Achane just moves the chains, right? Like that's kind of the recent one that I had to get used to was Tyrod Taylor, because
Tyrod Taylor for years.
Tyrod Taylor, and then it's Tyrod. But when the announcers say Tyrod, everyone thinks everyone's saying it the wrong way because, you know, the pronunciation guide changed the way they say it.
Tyrod Taylor was a really good college quarterback. This should have been corrected at Virginia Tech.
I agree.
The college SID needs to correct the announcer on it. So people are just repeating what they hear from announcing teams. So if they're saying it wrong, they're going to get it wrong. The classic example of this is Marcus Mariota.
Great one.
Mar. It's the same as Marcus. It's very straightforward. But for whatever reason, people want to say Marcus Mariota. And this goes back to college. People were corrected in both college and the NFL. This is the only one, Hutton, that I would give the player a total pass, because I don't think he was guilty of this at all, of ever saying his name incorrectly or allowing it to be mispronounced, other than he wasn't adamantly like, please say my name right and get it right. He wasn't, going out of his way to correct everyone. But this is one that's just a failure of sports media in general. Everyone says it incorrectly. They don't care if they're corrected. It's always, it's Marcus Mariota, who cares? It's very different. And it's just the same as Marcus. We were always correcting people on it's Marcus Mariota, same as Marcus. It's not Marcus Mariota.
Well, it's
Marcus Mariota.
And that sparked the next, like we had a couple of callers, our show, Chad, they were saying we were being too harsh on those that were saying it wrong. And I said, okay, well, next caller, Josh instead of Josh.
Yeah.
And
all-time great bit.
Shout out Josh Castile, still a longtime season ticket holder of our shows.
That was a fun running bit that whenever anyone disagreed with us on correcting people on the pronunciation of his name, we would then intentionally mispronounce their name just to see how they liked it over and over again. And there's a different thing between dialect. We all have words we say that when you hear it, you go, well, that's not the proper pronunciation of that word. Well, it's where I'm from. And this is not just a Southern thing. It could be people from the North or people from Philly that have a different way of pronouncing certain words. It's not completely correct. That's totally different than just adamantly agreeing within yourself to mispronounce someone's name. Not correcting it, not caring, just I'm going to mispronounce this name over and over, and I don't care whether or not you like it. That's very different.
So how much of fantasy football is playing into this NFL investigation, into how the Falcons handled what was a sick-feeling, unwell-feeling Bijan Robinson this past Sunday, who had one big carry, one rushing attempt in the game. He was active, and that came with 33 seconds left in the game. His illness was unknown throughout the game, and post-game, come to find out, he tells reporters he was dealing with a bad headache. He wasn't feeling well the night before, woke up and still didn't feel right, and he said he was feeling it. And Arthur Smith decided not to test it with the bad headache. However, he's active on game day. And there is an injury policy for teams to follow. And having been on the road with an NFL organization, if you wake up at the hotel and you have flu-like symptoms, or you have a terrible headache that's going to prevent you from possibly playing in the game, you must disclose that through the NFL policy. You just put it out through an email through your your PR director, your media relations director. Quick one-sentence email. Woke up, questionable. At this point, it would be questionable. There's no probable or designation anymore.
Do you have to put illness or just questionable?
No, you just if you wake up Sunday morning on the road for a player who flew on the charter, road trip, or home for whatever reason, you just send out an email and say he's woke up feeling unwell or whatever, but you have to designate it as illness. Otherwise, it would have to be a knee or a shoulder or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
so,
but the morning of, you're saying you can just designate questionable illness.
Right.
Would be
or,
the designation, right?
Hypothetical, if an offensive lineman's playing with his kid and turns his ankle on Saturday, after the final injury report comes out, the team has to disclose that. Now, it's not because of fantasy football. It's because of sports wagering. That's why it's there. And in Bijan Robinson's case, it would be a huge advantage if you knew he wasn't going to play. Arthur Smith says they were going to try to give it a go and see how he went all the way up to kickoff. He was active for the game, and they just didn't use him. And what turned out to be a win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa.
So it's pretty cut and dry. He violated the policy. He's already admitted it.
Well, they're going to see.
If he's admitting that we knew he woke up not feeling well or he had a headache the night before and didn't disclose it, and that's the reason he wasn't getting snaps and didn't play as much?
It depends on if they're investigating whether or not Atlanta and the staff knew how he was feeling the night before when he went to bed.
Okay.
And then
but
how
didn't
he
they
felt
say
when he woke up.
That's what happened?
But if he's getting dressed and he's just going through the motions and then he's telling the staff as it gets closer to the game, again, then that's different than finding out an hour or so before kickoff or finding out after inactives are announced. I think that's another key here. Inactives are announced 90 minutes prior to kickoff. So in Tampa's case, for 1 p.m., if it was announced at 11:30 that he was playing, and then they made the decision that they weren't going to go with him, even though he's active, that's not a violation of the policy. But if they knew about it and knew he was wavering one way or the other, then they've got to disclose that. And that compliance comes with, again, like a fine is my guess. If it's egregious, they could dock you a draft pick. But I doubt that's the case here.
Think about the
But it's a lot of fantasy football sites that are really diving into this story based on their recommendation, right?
Did the Falcons cover?
Well,
they won against Tampa.
Tampa was favored, I believe. Were they not?
So, okay.
Yeah.
Then
they won the game.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about from a bettor's perspective, if you're the person who put $5,000 on the Falcons to cover and Bijan Robinson, pretty big part of their team, was sick and they didn't disclose it and you did it after that, that's the person who's going to be really upset. And they're not going to get any solace out of the league finding them whatever amount of money after the fact for the person who lost their money. But there's no big issue with that, only if you bet anytime touchdown or something like that with Robinson, because look at what ended up happening.
Yeah, but to me that would be the same as him getting hurt during the game and he doesn't score.
Yeah.
You're right. Again, it's just the standard practice for the NFL. And this also, by the way, includes if he played more than one snap and he was just used extremely less than what he normally has been used. They would also look into it in that case. But it's generally just met with a fine. How much? Not enough to make a difference in the ownership's wallet. I think an NFL owner can only be fined, what, $500,000?
They set the rules.
Isn't that nice for a billionaire?
Yeah, they get to make the rules.
Well, I mean, sometimes the other owners want a certain guy fined more, I'm sure, for certain fines. You think where they really get you is docking picks.
Yeah,
that's why you.
That's not going to happen.
No. But the fantasy football aspect, it's intriguing. Just follow those who had Bijan on their rosters clamoring for an explanation as to why he wasn't being used, but he's in uniform. You know, what is there a suspension? Is there? Why wasn't it disclosed ahead of time? What are they going to do this week? He'll be playing against the Tennessee Titans.
Hutton, Payton, and LeBron James teaming up.
So, and they're doing this for it's going to be similar to the quarterback series, but they're going to do this for the NBA.
Yeah.
And Chad, my question is, what do you call it?
Playmaker, player, I don't know. Yeah, scorer,
general manager.
Yeah, I'm just coming up with, because quarterback is one word, nice and catchy. You know exactly what it is. You know exactly what you're tuning into when you see quarterback. So yeah, it's probably going to be a one-word type deal. Here's why I'm interested in this.
Okay.
Make me like the NBA. Make me like someone the way I like Kirk Cousins coming off that series. I watch more Vikings now because of that series. And I root for Kirk Cousins more because of that series. I watched Klay Thompson last night on the Manning cast. I thought he was good. I thought he was terrific. Good personality, good rapport with Peyton and Eli. Clearly a football fan. Knew his football, knew his Niners. Talking about the game. I want more of that. Pull me in. Give me a reason to like the NBA more. If you find the right guys and follow them around with personality, with work ethic, with drive, with everything that we question the NBA about, with load management and egos and just getting the bag and that's all that matters, show me the opposite of that. Show me the opposite of that with at least someone, and maybe I tune in more for that someone.
But what I think it will be is more of the eccentric personalities.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of a fashion show.
And
before the game,
unlike the quarterback
arena.
series, this will be under LeBron's production company. They're partnering with Omaha Productions. I think LeBron will be on this. Peyton would have been if he had this while he was playing. I mean, he kicks it off. There's a reason why they can't find guys to do it now, right? You've got to prove that the top guys are going to do it. LeBron's not going to be in the dunk competition, but he's going to be a part of this show. And then over the years, Alejandro Avila had a great list here. Just imagine like Dennis Rodman or Shaq or Allen Iverson, like
Bill Laimbeer.
But you knew them as their name and their brand. I'm with you. You can develop even some of the superstars behind the scenes with how you go about making this show work.
Reggie Miller, following him for a season. I mean, there's plenty of good examples and there are plenty of guys in the league now that would be interesting, could be entertaining. I love quarterback for the simple reason that I came out of it really being a fan of someone that I was indifferent about before. That's cool. That's the power of entertainment. That's the power of the movie industry. You look up on the big screen and you get taken to a different world and you become a fan of something. You get interested in something. I'm reading American Prometheus now because I loved Oppenheimer so much. And I want to know more about the true story. I'm going to watch more Milwaukee Bucks games because they profile this player. I'm going to watch more. That's what quarterback did for Kirk Cousins and the Vikings for me. Now, do that for the NBA. Let's do that there. Or here's the real challenge. Make me like LeBron James. Make him a focal point of this.
Well, that's on him.
And I want to see a side of him that makes me like and appreciate LeBron James more. My fear, though, Hutton, is they're going to zoom in on these NBA personalities, and I'm going to like the sport even less because it's going to confirm a lot of what I think.
Possibly.
That's my fear.
I mean, but I just think of like Draymond Green.
Shouldn't say the sport, the league.
Draymond Green,
I
Steph
like
Curry.
The league less.
We mentioned the teams with the greatest odds to win. I think it'll be players on those teams.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can, maybe get would you want a player from the D League? No.
I think you go three different levels. If I'm doing this, LeBron James the top, contender, LeBron James, give me a rookie, give me someone on the end of a bench breaking into the league, trying to stay up in the NBA. Give me a veteran journeyman that's in a market that people aren't paying attention to. I want 3 different levels. The way they were able to do with Mahomes, Cousins, Mariota, not Mariota. Notice how I got it right. Give me the 3 different tiers of players in the NBA. That to me is what's more interesting than just 3 of the same guy.
How about, well, I mean, Jimmy Butler comes to mind. I'm just trying to think of the East Coast. Who was the player that said he was that guy? I'm that guy? And that's my point.
Jason Tatum?
No, he made big shot after big shot in the playoffs last year.
Austin Reeves?
Was it Austin Reeves?
Of the Lakers?
Yeah. Say he's a great example of who should be on the show.
Yeah, he'd be good.
Up and down the roster.
Again, three different tiers. Make me like it. Give me a reason to watch. Give me a reason to root for someone. That's the power of entertainment, the power of cinema, and that's what you're doing. You're bringing experience to people and pulling them in. Don't push people further away. I fear that I want a reason to like LeBron James. He's he's not the greatest, one of the greatest of all time. Definitely not the greatest. But I want a reason to root for him and pull for him. Give me that reason, or with any other player in the league. That's what I want out of this.
John Morant?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to make.
Also,
really
at the trade deadline for the NBA, what are the odds that all the players just end up with LeBron?
Do you think Kirk Cousins would ever put a laser pointer at a team bus in his entourage? You think when the 49ers left town, he was pointing a gun at them?
No, he'd make his cat chase it.
Has he hit a teenager also?
John McClain's next.
Dabo Swinney ripping his own fans. Dabo Swinney at Clemson is, I don't know, they tell me that he's the guy that doesn't like the transfer portal because he's made some comments that weren't exactly supportive of it. Dabo Swinney has done a job at Clemson that very few thought could be done. Clemson is a town about this big. Well, I better do this, not that, because that's like a white power sign idiots say. But it's about that big. The state is South Carolina. The state is not Clemson. But Dabo Swinney put Clemson in rarefied air. If you, a couple years ago, were going to name me the 3 best college football teams before Georgia's run here, you'd say Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson. That's kind of who it always came down to. It felt like. So Dabo Swinney is now the victim of something that is good in one way, but it's bad in another. Incredible expectations of your fan base, meaning 10-2 ain't good enough. It just ain't. You can say whatever you want, but it just ain't. We got to be better. What? We're not in the college football playoff? What? We're not winning a national champion? What? We're 4-2? That's only winning 67% of our games? Here's what Dabo had to say. If you don't go undefeated, people say you're losers, that you're terrible. Let me tell you something. This is why football coaches for years and years and years and years fought the college football playoff. We're at a point in time, and I hate that, where people, if you don't go undefeated, you're losers. You're terrible. It's just a terrible mindset. Honestly, maybe we need to lose a few games and lighten up the bandwagon. Sometimes the bandwagon get a little full. That's the one good thing about going through a little bit of so-called adversity, is that you really find out who's with you and who's not. That's all crap. Let me explain to you Dabo Swinney's day, can I? Dabo Swinney probably wakes up around 5:30. Dabo Swinney smokes shit, shower, shave, shampoo, goes to the office. Probably has a meeting at 7. Dabo Swinney then is probably in different meetings with players or recruits, or maybe the administration, and maybe watching film, whatever. Then he has practice. Then after practice, he's doing the same thing. Then in the evening, he's making phone calls. Probably goes home around 10. At no point in time in his day, his week, his month, his year, is he finding out who's with us and who's not with us. It's not like there's a list. Now, maybe you find out what media member wants to rip you, but on a daily basis, a monthly basis, you're not finding out any of this crap. It's very simple. Coaches, if you want to know who's with you, Understand that when you lose, nobody's really with you. If you want to know who's really with you, win. And then everybody's really with you. It's literally that simple. As my father used to say to me, Dan, we're with you, win or tie, and we ain't so sure about the tie. So shut up with that stuff, win some football games, and don't sweat it. Seriously, do yourself a favor. Work hard, grab yourself a glass of wine, go sit in your chair, and read a book instead of being on social media or worrying about who is with you and who is not with you.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. Chad, the 49ers have lost 2 in a row now.
They have.
Had some road losses, lose last night to the Minnesota Vikings, who are now 3-4 and currently in the 8th spot, the first team out in the NFL playoff picture. The way too early NFL playoff picture, because who knows what happens over the next 2 weeks, because the last 2 weeks in the NFL went from San Francisco taking care of Dallas, and everyone thought, well, here comes an unbeaten season, to now 5-2 and asking who's really the best team right now in the league. John McClain joins us with all of the answers from sportsradio610.com is where you can read and hear all of his great work. Has covered the league for over 5 decades and has been with us for, going on 2 decades now. John, welcome. Always great to see you.
It's always great to be here, guys. Thank you very much.
Who is the best team in the league currently?
Well, first of all, 2 weeks ago, I had the 49ers and had Brock Purdy as the leading candidate to be voted MVP, and they've split the bet in the last 2 games. Kansas City's been on a roll, defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia. All of a sudden looks good. They made the move for Kevin Byard. That'll help their secondary probably. So I'm guessing right now I would have to go with the Eagles, even though they have not been as impressive as they were last year in the Super Bowl loser. Other New England hadn't been back to the Super Bowl since the 90s. They seem to be on a mission. They've got everything on both sides of the ball, but other teams could emerge. You know, it happens every year. We always say it's not what you do in September, October, but November, December, and now January. But I can tell you, it is certainly interesting, and it's a whole lot of fun.
I thought about you Sunday, John. Well, I think about you a lot, John.
We all do.
Well,
we think about
do
John
appreciate
all the time.
that. Thank you very, very much.
Ravens led 28-0 before the Lions made a first down. And I'm thinking, here is John McClain having Baltimore in the Super Bowl and Lamar Jackson having his best game of the year. They're getting out of London with a victory. They've won some late games. They've lost some games late as well. They could be a team 2 weeks from now that could be your answer to the best team.
First of all, I was thinking about that game a lot too, but for a different reason. I was at our home in Maryland because the Texans were off, so I went up there for 5 days. By the way, yesterday was 61, bright sunshine, no humidity, no breeze. I come home to 86 degrees. And so I thought about it because I just said that last week. I thought Detroit was the best team in the NFC. And when I watched Baltimore just hammer them from the get-go, Todd Monken, the new coordinator, they were doing things we expected to see them do all season. They had really good play calls, and they looked dominating, and Detroit looked defeated. And it's one great game for Lamar Jackson. I don't think you can say he's MVP or anything other than he just had a great game, passing, running. He was tremendous. And if they keep playing like that, I'm going to feel good about that Super Bowl pick. But, you know, just look at 2 weeks ago what we thought about the 49ers after they pounded the Cowboys.
John, knowing Mike Vrabel and his alpha personality, how difficult do you think it is for him right now to fully admit this roster is not getting it done, this season isn't going anywhere, and the Titans are now a seller and not a buyer? It started with the trade of Kevin Byard, the effort now probably to get rid of Derrick Henry also. How difficult do you think that is for Mike Vrabel, knowing what he's made of?
Well, it'd kill him. I mean, he doesn't like to lose. When he came to Houston and was working under Bill O'Brien, they won the first 2 years. They lost the third year. Let's see, 14, 15, 16. Won the third year, went to the playoffs, won a playoff game. They had injuries to Deshaun Watson. They lost, and Titans hired him. It turned out to be a great move. And it kills a guy like it kills all coaches when you lose. But when you see, and Rand Cawthorn comes from the 49ers, he's come from an organization that has really good talent, despite losing back-to-back games. And they have talent on both sides of the ball. They did it with draft choices. They did it with trades, free agent signings. So I would think it'd be a very interesting offseason. But I guarantee you they're not throwing in the towel. Kevin Byard had not played as well last year. They asked him to take a pay cut. Anytime you ask a player to take a pay cut, he's generally not going to be the same. It's a good deal for him to go to Philadelphia. They get 2 draft picks and another safety. This was the time to do it. And like Derrick Henry, I don't know what kind of market there is out there for Henry and his contract at this point of the year. But it's going to be fun to see how it plays out before Halloween, the trade deadline at 3:00 Central that day.
And, John, how about the scene in New England? Mike Vrabel honored in the Patriots Hall of Fame, sitting in the luxury box of Robert Kraft. I'm assuming it was Bill Belichick's camp that leaked the news about his contract extension. Just happened to be on the day that Mike Vrabel is in the house, where Patriots fans may be clamoring for him and not Bill Belichick. And then the Patriots go out and upset the Buffalo Bills in the game. Wild day. What do you think of everything going on in New England right now?
Well, first of all, I thought they're terrible, and I'm happy for Grable. He looked really good in that red jacket, and it meant a lot to him as well as the other inductees. But I think that it was leaked not by Belichick. He doesn't want anything out about his contract, and I think that's just not his style. But I think the Krafts did it, and they did it because every day, 24/7 on talk radio, locally in the Boston Globe, Boston Herald, all the media coverage team is constantly about, will Bill Belichick be back? Will Kraft fire him? And by leaking that, all of a sudden, whoa, he signed a new contract extension in the offseason. So now they're not talking about it anymore. And they won the game. Now, I'm stunned that they won that game. Buffalo has been, it's amazing. Buffalo looks so great against Miami, and then they come back and stink it up in that game. But Belichick's not going to go down without a fight. And Vrabel's not going anywhere from Tennessee, I guarantee you.
John, the NFL lost several veteran lead refs, their lead white hat official for crews due to retirement, stepping away, to the broadcast, whatever. Some of the calls that you've seen, made or not made this season, is it more? Is it less? Is it about the same? How would you stack it up? And the obvious misses, like the uncatchable pass with Cleveland and Indy on Sunday, where it's called defensive hold or pass interference 1, and it's totally uncatchable for anybody to get a hand on it except for maybe a fan in the bottom row who could reach down and possibly not fall out of his seat while trying to catch the football.
There's been controversy on officials' calls in the NFL since history began, and it doesn't have anything to do with the top guys retiring or going into the TV booth. It has to do with more camera angles, super slow motion. We see so much more than we used to see, and I'm all for the sky judge to help to see what we see. And I also like what Bill Belichick has recommended for years they won't do, probably because they think he knows something they don't, is he wants everything to be reviewable, but that doesn't take up any more time because you have the same number of challenges. And I think that's great. There shouldn't be anything that you can't review. And we see things on TV that we're like, how can they be so blind? Well, if the sky judge was up there in his own booth not being influenced by broadcast or anything else. And he had his big high definition flat screen TVs, and he's able to tell the referee immediately pick that flag up or that was overthrown. They wave it off, and you're not going to miss any time. There's no judgment. And I think at some point they're going to do that because there's so many egregious errors.
What does it tell you about the decision Arizona has made, not only to start the clock on the Kyler Murray coming off of PUP, but the potential that he could go this week?
I think no team wants to lose. An owner may want to lose. He may want to tank, but you can't tank. The way you do that is by keeping certain players out, and the NFL investigates if they think you're doing that. When somebody's healthy, Joshua Dobbs has played better. We knew Murray's coming back at some point. Don't know how good. They would love to trade the guy, but who's going to take on that contract?
Right.
He wouldn't have been the first overall pick if Cliff Kingsbury hadn't been the head coach and had seen him in the Big 12. He convinced them to do it. And he's a certain kind of quarterback with a certain kind of attitude and work habit that not every head coach's cup of tea. So what are they going to get for him? How much of the contract are they going to have to pick up? Are they going to be in position to get Caleb Williams or Drake May? And I think it's going to be so interesting if Chicago just won another game. Carolina needs to keep losing to help Chicago, but I think we'll see Murray next year with a different team. We'll see Justin Fields with a different team, but I'm hoping when he's ready he'll be played, although it could affect him financially because of things in his contract that would require that if they kick in that he'd have to be guaranteed his salary in 2025. He's already guaranteed it in 2024.
Giants beat the Commanders 14-7. John, will we see Ron Rivera, not with a different team, but out of the league before the end of this season?
Well, while I was up in just outside Annapolis in Maryland watching the Ravens on one channel, I was watching the Commanders on the other because my wife grew up there and she loves the Commanders, and they just looked awful. And poor old Sam Howell, he's going to set the record, break David Carr's record of 76 sacks in 2002, the first Texans season in franchise history. Their defensive line should be dominating. It's not. And Ron Rivera is a good guy, but when you have new ownership that takes over, they're going to evaluate you for a season, and he's going to be out of there. And unless they make some kind of remarkable turnaround, Ron Rivera is going to be gone. He might end up being a defensive coordinator, assistant head coach somewhere else because people really like the guy. But new owners, you pay, what was it, 5.0, or was it 5.0, 6.05 billion that he paid Josh Harris Group and Magic Johnson. They want their own coach in there because they're also trying to get a new stadium. So I think Rivera is the first coach who's going to be gone.
You think Bieniemy would be the interim? And if so, what does that mean about the decision being made and possibly the league wanting him to get that shot?
Well, I haven't seen anything from Eric Bieniemy that makes me think he's going to be a good head coach. Everybody's been saying it for years, and there's a reason people interview him and they don't hire him. People always want to blame them. What about blaming him? And so now he leaves so he can go take over an offense and he can call the plays, which he could not do in Kansas City. And so their offense has contributed to them losing. But if it happened during the season, sure, I'm guessing it would be Bieniemy. But if they're smart, write it out. If you're losing, go ahead and lose. Get yourself in position to move up to get one of those franchise quarterbacks. There are going to be so many teams who will be trying to do what Carolina did, trade up to get the first or second pick, to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, and the Commanders might be one of them.
Really interesting matchups going into Week 8, John, just because of the situation and kind of the vibe around certain teams. The Bills are playing on Thursday night. They've had an ugly showing against the Giants, then lose against the Patriots. They're hosting the Bucs. Meanwhile, the Cowboys return off of their bye, and they're 4-2. They're hosting the Rams. The Cowboys need to get it right. You've got the Dolphins after 2 losses facing a Patriots team again. And, oh, by the way, on the late afternoon slate, Bengals and 49ers is fascinating with Cincinnati going to the West Coast and San Francisco losing 2 straight.
Let me back up to the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys will win this game. Rams can't run it. They have to throw it. Matthew Stafford, he can move around a little bit, but that pass rush should be able to get to him. The key is to throw him off, the timing off with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, the fabulous rookie receiver. But the Cowboys, I think, not saying they're going to the Super Bowl, but I think they're bouncing back. They need Dak Prescott to play another good game. Cincinnati and San Francisco is going to be so interesting. The 49ers are having problems like other teams. They got guys out because of injuries. Brock Purdy had to bring the team from behind. He was terrible in the fourth quarter. Joe Burrow and the Bengals are playing better. Can't imagine the 49ers are going to lose at home, lose a third consecutive game, but it's definitely possible because every team in the league, it's possible that they're going to lose a game that we think they should win. And that game on Thursday night, Tampa just got beat at home by Atlanta. I watched Atlanta beat the Texans on a field goal with no time left in Atlanta. Arthur Smith's doing a pretty darn good job over there, being in first place with Desmond Ridder out. I think they'll beat. I think the Bucs are going to lose that game. Then I think the Bucs are going to come here in Houston and lose to the Texans. I don't think they're very good. And right now, you'd have to say the Falcons are the best team in the NFC South, and the Titans can do something about that on Sunday.
John, always enjoy this. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the week and enjoy Week 8.
Guys, it's my pleasure. There's a dark cloud hanging over Houston, and I haven't been able to say this in a while. At least we got the Texans.
Stay tuned. More coming here on Hot Mic.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Vikings show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm gonna say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Coming up in 20 minutes, Robert Horry joins us. 7-time NBA champion, Robert Horry. Can't wait for that visit. We'll preview the NBA season, which tips off tonight, plus get his thoughts on some off-the-court questions like possible expansion and more.
Load management, hot button issue.
Yeah, no doubt.
He knows Greg Popovich really well, who's been a proponent of it in the past, so we can get his take on that. Hutton, would you like a fact of the day here on the show?
I would love that.
This courtesy of our good buddy Todd Furman, who knows Vegas, knows the betting markets as well as anyone out there. Todd Furman tweets out
which
posts,
means note this and store this away.
Store this away. Just a little, if for gambling advice or just a very interesting factoid about college football. There are 5 teams across all of college football that have only covered one spread all season. Those 5 teams: Temple, Southern Miss, Illinois, Vanderbilt, and Georgia.
Wow.
The Georgia Bulldogs won 5-1 against the spread this year. Temple, Southern Miss, Vandy, all 1-7 against the spread.
You take that information and use it to your advantage. If you haven't taken your shot with PointsBet, the perfect time is now. Big reason why, exclusively for first-time PointsBet users. Grab this unique offer. Right now, new PointsBet users can get up to $1,000 in second chance bets. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, PointsBet has your back with a second chance. Get this offer by visiting OutKick.com/bet. Complete the registration process with PointsBet. Make your first bet. If your first bet happens to lose, that's when the second chance bets come into play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. OutKick.com/bet is where you go to snag this offer. Chris Olave, the second-year wideout for the New Orleans Saints, arrested overnight for reckless driving, reckless operation of a vehicle, driving 70 in a 30, apparently on his way home from a CVS in Kenner, Louisiana, and arrested there. So he was booked and filed paperwork, released. Saints aware of the situation, which is your go-to line there for teams.
He's not missing any time, right?
Not to my knowledge. I mean,
well, I'm saying I just don't. Big story at Georgia, given all their problems with speeding and reckless driving. Is this a suspendable offense from the team or the league?
No. This is this would be comparing that to Georgia. I know what you're saying. There is a big issue in Georgia. It is, but that's like how many in a row now? How many of their how many of their players?
Again, I don't. Pass.
Yeah,
I don't know what to say about it if it's not going to affect his availability.
Well, and Justin Ross.
I guess the question would be,
arrested.
should he be suspended? But
no.
I don't think
Justin Ross also arrested for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been underperforming. I wonder if Kansas City is going to buy in again. They've already traded for Mecole Hardman at wideout. They were at least rumored to be interested in DeAndre Hopkins, for instance. Do they go after D-Hop?
Now, if Chris Olave was arrested for not paying child support and then bragging about it like Antonio Brown, then we got a different story. That's probably a suspendable offense from the league.
Sure.
That's Antonio Brown's latest.
Sure. It's time for how about this? How about this tie-in, Chad? If Chris Olave is suspended, that would be a big overreaction.
Yeah.
Time for some more NFL overreactions now with Davey Hudson.
All right, guys, we'll start things off. It was a big night on Monday Night Football. And up until about 2 weeks ago, all the buzz was around Brock Purdy. So I ask you all, Brock Purdy should no longer be in the MVP discussion?
I guess it depends on how you define discussion.
Legitimate contender.
No. I don't think so. And here's why. Here are the names right now ahead of Brock Purdy with the Vegas odds of winning NFL MVP. Patrick Mahomes.
Name these quarterbacks.
Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. He's currently even with Trevor Lawrence for NFL MVP. With those names I listed ahead of him, Hutton, I'm going to say not an overreaction to say that he's out of the mix right now for NFL MVP.
Agreed. Out of the mix. It's not inconceivable that he can get back in, though. But the time is now to kind of make that turn and just announce yourself as you're one of these. You're one of that group. And the terrible play in the fourth quarter last night is not the way to do it. Playing bad on the road against Cleveland, where Deshaun Watson's not playing on the opposite side, not the way to do it. So, yeah, I will say, though, some of the names you're rattling off there, and Vegas knows what they're doing. And one of them's a past MVP in Lamar Jackson. He didn't start the season all that well. He's been playing a couple of good games recently. But, I mean, it's not like they dominated the Titans in London either. So
yeah, things can change in a hurry.
2 weeks makes a world of difference. And where is Tua on that list?
Second, behind Mahomes.
Here's the thing about Tua and the Miami Dolphins. If a team's 500 or less, they've won every game. They face a winning team, they lose.
Yeah.
And the Bills and the Eagles are those two losses. That's the next hurdle. And by the way, San Francisco's next hurdle, winning tight window ball games. They're either blowing out teams by scoring 30-plus, or they're losing low-scoring games for a defensive-minded type team.
To piggyback off that snide remark you made about what quarterbacks are on this list,
yes,
let's make it not just a quarterback-only award at some point. Let's get some love for Tyreek Hill. Let's get some love for Micah Parsons or Bosa, or whoever else you want to throw in there. Christian McCaffrey. There are other guys we can list as a possibility to win the MVP other than a quarterback. But what do we know? It's going to be a quarterback. It's going to be one of those quarterbacks. Davey, what's next?
Speaking of quarterbacks, we'll stay in the NFC as well. But the Falcons, they need to move on from Desmond Ridder at the end of the season.
I don't think I can say that yet. I mean, I think I know my answer, but I don't know for sure. And it's just simply because he's got, back-to-back games now of over 300 yards passing? I believe that's right. I'm willing to. I've got two bad options in fantasy. We know this. I've got Ridder and Minshew. I'm starting Ridder this week. Don't even need to ask about Minshew. Ridder against the Titans. Bad quarterbacks generally have some type of luck against the Titans traditionally. Arthur Smith clearly invested everything in him. Now, move on after this season. I would ask, are they going to pony up and pay Ryan Tannehill? Or are they going to try to go after Kirk Cousins? To me, they're not going to.
Who are the options?
They're not going to be drafting high enough to go. They were, and they passed on options. They're not going to be drafting high enough this year based on how they're going to win one, lose one, and there's a lot of bad teams that'll end up bottoming out to be in the mix for the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks that everyone's going to be clamoring for, unless they want to trade up.
What if they went with my option yesterday as the rising star, someone who's going to explode on the scene next year? Quinn Ewers may be available to them wherever they're picking in the draft. That's a possibility. I'm with Hutton. I'm going to say it's an overreaction right now to say he's done. Although, if you want one singular moment to make me out on you, then you Leon let up before you get in the end zone, running it in the way he did on Sunday. That is an inexcusable error. And you
Yes.
could see in his face he was celebrating before he crossed the goal line and got it knocked out for a touchback. That is the type of error that lives with me forever. So if he doesn't pick it up and pick it up soon, it's not an overreaction at all. They should move on from him. And that is a moment I will not forget, Desmond Ridder.
Agreed.
6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year. And, yeah, you mentioned that one fumble. He also lost another one there going into the I think they were at their 2 or 3 yard line when they fumbled that one. Had another opportunity.
Well, again, like I want to see if he picks up where he's kind of going with his 2-week trend here. Not great, but much better than what it was. And, I mean, he's got receiving options that, for whatever reason, they don't use hardly enough.
Yeah, Falcons 4-3.
Maybe that's on him.
The NFC South, and they do have an easier opponent on the defense side of the ball coming up this weekend on Sunday. But, guys, next up, I mean, it's not an NFL overreaction if I don't have a Deshaun Watson
that's right.
statement in here, but Deshaun Watson finishes out his contract in Cleveland.
So help me out here, because I saw the story about what it would cost after each year. And I think the first time it's even somewhat manageable, but it'd still be the most dead money, the biggest dead money cap hit ever is after 2026.
Correct. Still would owe tens of millions.
What is what is the length of the contract? Where does it go through? Do you know?
Yeah, it goes through. He'll be 32 when he's a free agent currently, and that's 2027.
I'm going to say he makes it through, but I'm not confident in that answer at all right now. With the guaranteed money and all the dead money involved, I'm going to lean towards he makes it through that contract, but I say that with zero confidence, Hutton.
Current contract, I'm going to say no. They will restructure his contract because starting next year, he has an $8 million bonus if he restructures his contract for Cleveland. Now, he's not going to restructure unless it's guaranteed again. But current setup as it is, eventually they'll restructure to make more room. So I'll say no, he's not going to finish out his current contract in Cleveland. And there's no way you sit back and retire if you're Watson, because you'll also take a penalty hit on the money there too. You just wait until 2026 and see what happens. But he'll get more money for restructuring. And by restructuring, you could reduce it and actually just pay him a lump sum, and we'll see where they end up at the end of all this.
I'm just adding this on as we go. Does he remain the starter during this period, or is he the most expensive backup in NFL
he's
history?
the starter.
No, he's the starter.
Yeah, he's going to be the starter.
He's the starter.
PJ Walker's not the starter.
And Davey, he can be the head coach and general manager if he wants to.
Yeah. Jimmy Haslam may give him his seat, may give him his owner's box at some point too with all the money they're paying him.
He's a starter.
All right, guys. Well, Chicago, they currently have their own first and Carolina's first, but they will have the number 1 overall pick come the opening of the 2024
Slam dunk.
draft.
They're going to have it. It's done. Carolina is the worst team in the league, and they're not going anywhere. And now, especially if Kyler Murray is actually going to play for Arizona, Arizona is, to me, the top contender to have that number 1 spot with Josh Dobbs playing quarterback. But if Kyler Murray's going to come back, while I don't hate what Josh Dobbs has done, I think it's going to elevate them to win enough to be out of the cellar totally. So it's going to be the Bears' pick because Carolina is going to be the worst team in football.
Yeah, and then the Bears will be around there.
They're going to give it a run too.
They're 2-5. There's a number of 2-win teams right now. And also all this tankathon talk. I think we're going to see less of that discussion because I don't think teams are seeing a Caleb Williams to tank for right now. Off the field, on the field, whatever.
Yeah.
They love the guy on the field, but, I mean, is he your leader of an organization based on what he's been doing, what he's been saying?
Well,
what he's painted?
No, he's I like what you did there. No, he's not fulfilling what everyone thought he would be when we had the conversation of he might be the greatest prospect I've ever scouted 3 weeks ago.
You know how I always love the draft cyclical conversation. It's about to turn to Drake May. That's going to be the storyline.
And he just lost to Virginia at home.
Caleb Williams.
Not all his fault, but
Caleb Williams all the buzz about him is now going to turn to Drake May. That's going to be the discussion, and then it'll be about, are you tanking for which quarterback? That's the next narrative as they try to make awful teams more interesting to discuss.
Allow me to stay consistent. It's not because I'm wearing Carolina blue right now. I've always been on Drake May over Caleb Williams. So that would be my number 1 pick at quarterback throughout. Nothing has changed with that.
Okay, guys. The Giants should start Tyrod Taylor over Daniel Jones.
No, they should not. Daniel Jones, number one, taking a beating. Number two, needs Saquon back there. And number three, you invested in him, Brian Daboll. Yeah, it should be Daniel Jones, and I think it will be.
I didn't see in that just 14-7, just barn burner against the Commanders. I thought Tyrod Taylor did a nice job for a backup quarterback in that spot. I'm not seeing something where I think they need to give up on Daniel Jones and go to him and not at least see what Daniel Jones has more to offer. He offered you a lot a year ago. They did invest in him. Not yet. Daniel Jones should be the starter.
Looking for the Giants, they're in the same division as Washington, by the way, because over the last 5 seasons, the G-Men 10-22-1 against the NFC East. 7 of those 10 wins are against Washington.
Yeah.
That helps playing the Commanders.
Big Shot Bob, or is it Big Shot Rob, Hutton? We're about to
Robert
find out.
Horry joins us next on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow.
Welcome into OutKick, the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Just like that, kicking off the final hour on this Tuesday edition. Hot Mike with Utton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. That's right.
Flying by today.
Absolutely. Really excited to tip off the hour here with Robert Horry. Chad, we enjoy several things about Robert Horry. Clutch.
Very clutch.
Alpha.
That's one word that comes to mind.
Alpha.
Yep.
Consistent. Champion. And joins us on the show right now.
As a Tennessee guy, I don't love the Alabama part, but everything else I love about Robert Horry. Robert, how are you, man?
Man, we gave y'all your one win last year. Be happy.
Robert,
I'm good. How you guys are doing,
good.
man?
Do you prefer Big Shot Bob or Big Shot Rob? We had this discussion earlier.
You know what? I think Bob sounds better. Rob, I don't care. You know, you can drop Bob and Rob says, hey, yo, what's up, Big Shot?
That works too.
Robert Horry here with us, courtesy of Bet Online. You can check out Bet Online for updated NBA title, conference, division, and awards odds, plus updated win totals and player stats. NBA tipping off tonight. Can you get on board with the idea of pushing back the start of the season?
You think about it. It's like when I played, start of the season always happened on Halloween night. You know, it happened around that. But I think now they're doing it earlier so you guys can get more games in between.
Okay.
You don't have to play that many back-to-back games. So I'm fine with it. I just want to see NBA action because I love NBA basketball, and whatever's best for the players, I think, you know, Adam Silver's going to figure it out.
For sure. And I you know, in the height of my NBA fandom, Christmas Day was always when I generally really dove in.
It's the unofficial opening day.
Yes,
it is.
And I've had a rule, and I'm just being honest with you, I've had a rule with Chad or anyone in the studio behind the scenes. Tell me when there's 3 minutes left in a game in the regular season, because that's when it's go time for me. It's a 10-point game, 3 minutes left. I want to watch that finish because of the game of runs. I want to see more competitive action. I wonder if we push back the season, reduced it a bit. I like the in-season tournament. I'm intrigued by it.
Me too.
I can't get into it in October when I know that traditionally I'm really paying attention come Christmas.
Well, you can't get into it in October because, you know, don't know who's going to win the college national championship right now.
Okay.
The NFL is crazy. And look, we finally got someone in the World Series that aren't the Dodgers or the Astros. So you think about all these sports that's going on in the NBA seasons kind of like a side note. But I get what you're saying. And a lot of people use Christmas Day or after All-Star as one of those marks for the NBA. But these are all perfect games for the NBA. They can fill in that void for when those, you know, think about it, football only plays on Sunday. You need something to keep you entertained until Sunday. And I think that's what the NBA does. They keep you entertained until there's no more football and no more baseball, and there's only basketball and hockey left.
Robert, how much does Victor Wembanyama, playing for another one of your former teams, the Spurs, how much does that help the initial interest in the NBA? Because this is a player unlike most. There's only a handful of guys that's been this hyped coming into their rookie year in the NBA. How much can that help early season attention around the league?
A lot. And if you watch, and with social media today, and his highlights and the things he's able to do with the ball, off the ball, you think about the shots he's blocking. He's coming from the block and blocking someone who's shooting a 3-shot. And what he's able to do is incredible. I think the intrigue of, is he going to live up to the hype, is going to have people tuning in. Will he be able to be that next guy like a LeBron who had all the hype to live up to the hype? And I think he's in the perfect situation. You know, he's with Pop, so he's not going to have that much media attention because they're going to keep him at bay as much as possible. But I think the kid has a huge upside. If you watch him play and some of the things he's able to do, they're jaw-dropping.
So I look at you as a guy from a different era of the NBA, so I think I know your answer to this question, but I have to pose it anyway because you do work and cover the league now as well. Load management is a hot button issue across the league, right? It's divisive for fans. It's divisive for certain coaches, players, everyone around the league when you look at what's been done in recent history around the league. Where do you stand on the idea of load management?
I think load management should only apply to two people in the league right now. That's LeBron James and Chris Paul. And I say those, and maybe KD. I say it to those guys because I played against them, and so that means they're old. And I don't believe in it Because think about this, the league is doing so much to try to, give these guys opportunity to rest. Why do teams need to give them opportunities to rest also? And also, if you think about in the era where we played in, we had back-to-backs. My rookie year, I flew commercial. And so you got things like that can, put you in a position of getting injured. And guys didn't get injured that much. And it's amazing how now we talk about load management and protecting these players when like all these players are sitting out anyway and they still getting hurt. So there has to be something that's going on in the system that's not right. My favorite line is like, oh, we built different. Yeah, you built a little different. You stay hurt. We didn't get hurt as much as you guys did. And so you built a little different.
Well, and the way you mentioned it, flying commercial, someone might say, "Oh, wow, you had to fly a commercial." That's a big deal when you're 7 foot tall. When your entire team is 6'8" plus, and the size of you guys, right? It's
a big deal when you're 6'5".
That's an uncomfortable flight. I'm 6'3", and it's uncomfortable for me, right?
How about being a rookie and not having a first class seat, and you had to sit in the back, and they didn't have exit row where you could sit in the exit row. You just sit in the seat for like 8 hours like this. Hey, man. Going from Seattle to New York. I'm like, come on, man.
But it's the little things like that are big things, right? When you see advancements, changes in the game, the way travel's done, everything else, it's a lot different.
Yes. I had the opportunity to go on the Rockets plane, the plane that Tillman did for the Rockets. I'm like, man, if we would have had this plane when we played, woo, and the nourishments they have on the plane, the supplements, I'm like, wow, I could have probably played 20 years in the league like a LeBron.
Big Shot Bob with us, courtesy of Bet Online. The shot that you consider to be the most clutch of your career, which would be which one?
Had to be a shot with the Lakers when I was at home playing the Sacramento Kings in the playoffs. Even what I did against, in Game 5 of the finals against Detroit, that was done on the road. So it was, that to me is great because you did it on the road, but to be able to hit a shot in a series where against our rivals at home and let the fans chant your name on the ego side of it, it's large for me, man. And, also growing up a Laker fan and to be able to do that is one of my best and most favorite shots. With whatever I did in Detroit is a really, really close second.
Did you ever feel like the way other teams perceived you on the court in late game situations, did it ever go from, okay, the decoy is going to be over here, and if I'm open, I'm going to take the shot, to, okay, now you're the focal point when you're out there, and other teams really had to know this is a guy that's going to take this shot and make it, and we better know where he is at all times?
It's weird. I've only heard that once, and that was by the late, great Kobe Bryant. We was playing them, and he told Karl Malone, do not leave him. And Carl actually left me, but I missed the shot though. And he was like, I told you not to leave him. But no, it's so weird. And even in the huddles, when we drawing up a plays, I'm sitting there like, y'all do know I'm the best option you have right now. Draw the play up for me. And then I see the play drawn up. I said, oh, the play is for me, because smart teams don't let the first play happen. And the second option is always me. I said, yep, this is my play. So I enjoy it. I love being out there. I love being in those pressure moments. I love trying to step up and earn the name, Big Shot.
Which team were you on where you could have won your 8th title instead of just 7?
It's definitely San Antonio. I don't know if you remember this. We went into overtime with the Dallas Mavericks, and we know Manu Ginobili fouled Dirk Nowitzki, went to the free throw line. He made that one, and we went into overtime. We eventually lost that game. But that team in 2006, we should have three-peated that year. That 2016, we had that little hiccup. Dallas went on to win that series, and Dallas went on to beat, I think it was Miami or something.
Yes.
Miami. Yeah. So there's, I love D-Wade, but there's no one man could beat the San Antonio Spurs when you have a team that can play the defense like the Spurs play. We proved that, in the next year with LeBron, and now he was able to dismantle Detroit. Dismantle Detroit, and we was able to win that. But I just think the spurs should have went three-peated that year, 2006, and we didn't.
Take us behind the scenes a bit with just some of the former players that and LeBron's a part of this too. Shaq wants a piece, I think, of Las Vegas. How many players are talking about wanting a piece of the Vegas franchise when it's available? It's available.
Hey, it's only the players who have access to billionaires. And LeBron and Shaq are the only ones that have access to billionaires. And I think, every guy wants to be like a Michael Jordan, like a Magic Johnson, to have a piece of the team because they want to cement this thing called a legacy. What better than to start out in humble beginnings, work your way up through the ranks, play for a team and own a team. I think LeBron and Shaq is, those two guys are probably the only guys in the league that have a good chance, unless they put a team back in Seattle where, we know Sean Kemp and Gary Payton really want some hands in that. But I think it's going to be hard not to put a team in Vegas because you got the Aces who just won a championship. You got the Golden Knights who won championship. And, I'm a Raider fan, but don't look like the Raiders are going to win no championship no time soon. But, you think about and then baseball is going in. There's every major franchise is a team in Vegas, so there has to be a basketball one. And I think Adam's not going to let that, not happen, but not putting a team there. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets to, who gets put owner of that team. Hell, if I had the money in the back, and I'd throw my name in the hat also, because what's better than owning an NBA team? Brings so much clout.
Especially in that market.
Yeah, and I feel like with every other sport, Robert, there's a lot of questions about what market should get, what team, or, should it be Nashville or Charlotte, for Major League Baseball or whatever. With the NBA, I guess two-part question. Is it time to expand for the league? And are there any other options in Seattle and Vegas, which seem to be the two no-brainer markets to bring a team?
If you look at, I think, Vancouver had a really great following in basketball. If you want to go back up to Canada, I think Vancouver is one. I think, Seattle, I love playing in Seattle. They have a huge following, but I don't think any other cities really need one because, even though I'm from the great state of Alabama, I don't think one city in Alabama can, afford a team or handle a team. So I just think when you look at the overall and what, the dynamics are and the demographics and what can actually bring money, you think about it. If you put a team in Vegas, you got that's a destination city. Every weekend game is probably going to be sold out because all the casinos are probably going to own suites and they're going to put their whales in these seats. So I think, that is the obvious option. But you know what? I always say this, put two teams in the West and move Memphis to the East. And then you ain't got to worry about it. Everybody, it's the right number of teams in each part of the league. So it's just do that. Adam, you hear me?
He's listening to you on your ideas.
Not us. He'll listen to you, not us.
Robert Horry with us, courtesy of Bet Online. Final thing for you, your MVP favorite right now, and give us a sleeper for most valuable player at the end of all of this.
I think, everybody thinks that Jokic is going to win it again because, let's be honest, he could have won it last year. But my sleeper to me is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think now with Chet on that team, back on that team, he can stay healthy. They're going to put more wins up. He's, that mark has been known to, produce an MVP and Westbrook when they won like a top 10, top 5 team. I think the way he plays and the way he can compete is that guy that can, win MVP, even though his odds are 14-1. I like that, and then who knows if Booker can carry them and be the leading scorer on that Phoenix Suns team. I'd like him also. He's 18-1, but I just think, to me, I don't know why. I'm just in love with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think he's that guy that can, sneak in there and win MVP.
One of the greatest winners and clutch performers, Robert Horry, has been our guest. Pleasure to have you on the show, man. Let's do this again soon, and have a great season courtside, calling those games, being a part of all that.
This has been a pleasure, man. Make sure you guys get me on here again. It's been fun.
This is fun. Cool customer
we'll
right
tell
there.
some SEC stories when you come back on.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need to talk about how bad Tennessee is and my bet with Peyton Manning, and he always has to send me a signed $100 bill.
We definitely have to get you back
How
on
many
to
of
tell
those
that
did you
story.
get? How many of
I
those
only
you
got 3.
Okay, well, you've got 3.
Hey, but one of them I could sell one and make up a lot of money.
That's
with
right.
it.
Yeah.
No doubt.
That's
Join
a valuable
LeBron
bill.
and Shaq by doing that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks, Robert.
All right, guys. Take care.
Big shot Bob there. Robert Horry. Chad, I'm glad you brought up Bob because I've always said Rob.
Yeah, I was thinking about it like I said on the way over. I've always known as Big Shot Bob, but I have heard Big Shot Rob before too. So you're not the only one that says that. Cool dude.
Yeah.
Great talking to him. The way I look at Robert Horry is as this stoic figure, that he was always a cool customer, but you could not see any emotion on his face at any time.
Those are the killers.
So talking to him and
that fits the
getting his
clutch.
personality, he's just a fun-loving guy, laughing, giggling. You know, you wouldn't think about that. I don't know if he'd be stoked about me saying he's a giggler, but you know what I'm saying? Like laughing at what he's saying. Like not
relaxed.
That's not at all what I expected. I expected more stoicism from Big Shot Bob. That was fun.
And few and far between.
Not a fan of load management, too.
No.
Nor are we.
No. Few and far between, though, when you get the ball, want the ball, when you're not the guy, right? And you want the ball when it's your turn, and you know you're going to make the shot.
Yeah.
And time and time again, Horry would do it.
And he wanted it every time, too. Interesting, his point about load management should apply to 3 guys. LeBron James, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant. He said, I know because I played against all 3 of those guys, which means they're all older. That sounds fine, and I would love to reduce it down to just the older players that really need it. The problem with that is, though, you're hurting the fan. Because those are the 3 guys. If you circled 3 guys in the league right now, Hutton, and said, who would you buy a ticket to see before they retire? That's a legendary type player. Those are the 3 guys.
But here's the other thing. They're going into a television.
That's up there in their career.
They're going into a television negotiation. They've just redone the NBA Players Association and CBA that's locked up for 10 years now. At least 2 of those players, Durant and LeBron, Chris Paul as well, you will tune in to watch. You may not buy a ticket out of market, right? You're not going to the game. You'll tune in to watch. And that's
valuable
the
for
key.
them.
That's the key is you don't want them sitting out load management style whenever it's time to be on ABC or whoever ends up with the contract moving forward. That's a big part of all of it, and I'm here for it. I want to see the best players on the court. Coming up, Michigan, sign stealing, and the very latest with all of the videos that are circulating.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there, probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, like who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm gonna go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Vikings show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm gonna say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Well, thanks to Robert Horry for joining us. Also, John McClain. 6th at Peabody, our location with the Odd Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine to top my with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. Chet, when the NCAA is out to get you, they will get you. For what penalty? It really doesn't matter. You know why? Because when they bait the water, the investigative team of the NCAA has traditionally been the media. They allow the media to bring the evidence. And from there, they get involved and try to hand out the heavy hand. The biggest story right now with Michigan and the sign stealing? Well, you've got
Connor Stallions.
You have Connor Stallions, and he's buying tickets. He's suspended with pay while this investigation goes on by the university, by the athletic department. And Jim Harbaugh sends out a statement saying no knowledge. He wasn't the one that was implementing that. And all the while, videos are now surfacing on social media of Connor Stallions on the sideline next to offensive and defensive coordinators as the opponent is on the field, standing next to those play callers and letting them know as he watches across to the other sideline what signs are coming in. The same sideline that Jim Harbaugh is pacing up and down. So does he know about this? Absolutely he knew about this. And therein lies to me, the scandal part of where we are with this story. It's so obvious what they're doing in the videos that have surfaced through local TV outlets and more, even dating back to last year's Ohio State matchup, where Stallions is on the other side, on the sideline, staring down what is the Ohio State offensive signal callers. And then as Ohio State turns and looks to the sideline for the signal of what play they're going to run based on the defensive formation, Stallions then turns to the defensive coordinator, and then all of a sudden, what do you see? All these different signals to the Michigan defense on how to adjust to what they just saw on the opposite sideline.
Well, the placard, the really damning piece of evidence is zooming in, which if you're watching, you're seeing on the photo. It's pretty clear when you get really close to it. It's a placard of hand signals and what each one equates to. Getting the signs from other teams and stealing them and showing exactly what's going on. He's also at different times standing next to the defensive coordinator and then going and standing next to the offensive coordinator. This is clear cut. I mean, we can sit here and play the game of, well, innocent until proven guilty and who knows. And you don't hire an analyst from the Naval Academy that lists on their LinkedIn profile they're going to revolutionize the game of football and how they handle intelligence from a Marine Corps standpoint, and then have that person Venmo other scouts and analysts to go to games to scout people and buy one ticket on each side, and then have all of this evidence and multiple Big Ten teams turning you in over it without it being the case. Let's be real honest here.
Sure.
And Michigan fans know it.
Oh, you can see it.
They know they're caught red-handed. They know this is going on. The only fallback for Michigan right now, honestly, and it's an old, tried and true fallback on something is, well, everyone else is doing it. We're not the only ones doing it, right? That's always the thing. We're not the only ones paying players. We're not the only ones doing it. And that is true when it comes to paying players
former
in the past.
coaches have admitted to anonymously to outlets about what they were doing. There's an ESPN report about what other coaches are saying about sign stealing, and it's going on. The difference is, Chad, you mentioned this earlier in the show. It's not obvious. It's not obvious.
It's not obvious, and have you seen I haven't seen many accounts of people saying they went to this extent of buying tickets and going to games and doing that.
Well, there was one account of they wouldn't send staffers; they would send fans.
Yeah,
they would send their fans.
Well, that's the way to do it
on behalf of said program,
and then they could report back. There's an easy way to do this if you have someone attached to the program and they're really good at picking these up. Could just report back face to face or write something down on what it is and what they found, and present to you written reports where there's no electronic trail of it. I think what gets me more than anything about this whole Michigan part of it, Hutton, is Jim Harbaugh's just utter lack of regard for authority. I mean, he is God in his eyes. He thinks he's completely right. Nothing he's doing is wrong. He felt that way with the first NCAA investigation. And I'm not here to relitigate what went on with the suspension and the hamburger being paid for. And it wasn't just a hamburger. The NCAA came out and said it was illegal practices during COVID-19 shutdowns. There were a lot of other things that went on with it. But Jim Harbaugh doesn't care. His complete disregard for the rules in this case and how brazen he was with Connor Stallions and how it went down, I don't think he's coaching college football after this year. I've really turned on this to where it's not just he's going to go to the NFL. I think because of a lengthy suspension or possible show cause with this, he's going to be forced to go to the NFL. I think he wants to now anyways because the NCAA does have him in the crosshairs, and they're not going to be done until they get their flesh from him. I think he's gone, but I don't know that he's going to have the option at this point. This looks really bad.
Well, this is just at ESPN. They mentioned Jamie Grant before he entered the Florida House of Representatives. He was on the equipment staff for Auburn football in the early 2000s. And his responsibilities were more than just loading and unloading the bus. He assisted the coaches. And his quote here is, "I was going to hold 2 footballs, and my only job was to try and pick up intel." That's on the record today at ESPN. So, and then the report goes on, Chad. This is through Adam Rittenberg. When it comes to sign stealing in college football, a consensus among coaches about what is unequivocally wrong is hard to find. Grant said Auburn tried to decipher signs only in real time, and because of that, they never felt like they were crossing the line. But talk to enough coaches, and you'll find shades of gray where they search for a competitive advantage. Paranoia is rampant, rationalizing the kind of behavior the American Football Coaches Association Director Todd Berry says is at the very least unethical. But unethical and against the rules they're two different things. You know, one is something that's just an unsaid rule, unwritten rule, which is not a rule. Just it's understood you don't do this type of agreement. So it's the straight lie, and it's also just the total disregard for being caught.
And I just don't know that anyone that's gone to this extent.
Well, that's what I mean. And if they have, Chad, they haven't been this stupid about it. Like it's not like Stallions is in the box with binoculars. He is literally right next to the offensive and defensive play caller. And you think it's not like both were in the box. There's a reason why both coordinators are on the sideline, because Connor Stallions wanted to speak to both guys. Sometimes you have the defensive coordinator who wants to be on the sideline with his players. Maybe the OC wants to be up in the box. Not the case here. I don't think there's any coincidence to that.
Allie in the YouTube chat says, this is like the Astros saying everyone else is stealing signs or they were giving them away. Like, what? That's not what we're talking about here.
Well, but there was a rule written that you can't use the electronic feed.
Let's be clear, though, here. Most everyone does try to steal signs.
Right.
That's not a rule in college football. So to say that is correct. When I say, I'm not saying everyone does it. I'm just saying the only fallback that Michigan has in this instance is to go prove a lot of other schools are doing the exact same thing. I don't think they're going to find that. Why? Because I don't think any schools are doing the exact same thing. I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find a program
scouting
dumb enough to hire a kid who legitimately is saying in his bio he's the director of intelligence.
Yeah.
He's a CIA operative for your program. That's what he was hired to do. And for Jim Harbaugh to claim ignorance, it's bad for him. He's lying. That written statement is a lie. He knows what Connor Stallions is up to. He knows what's going on. Look, this is bad for him. I'm not condoning anything going on, but to act like other programs aren't trying to steal signs, Hutton's got the report that's from anonymous coaches about what all they do to try to steal signs. Do I think someone's this dumb about it? No. And here's the part of it that really bothers me about Harbaugh is the compounding factor to it. You were dumb about things that went on with the NCAA investigation that got you pinched for 3 games before, got your program in some trouble. And then while all this is going on, you never thought, hey, maybe we change his bio online. Or maybe we have Connor not Venmo guys on our staff to go to games to scout signs from opponents in the front row. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that. He never thought that way.
So
that's the problem I have with it.
Here's the thing, though. Jim Knowles, who's now the defensive coordinator at Ohio State, told ESPN in December that he estimated 75% of teams sign steal in some form. Keep that in mind. That's the Ohio State defensive coordinator. That was in December. Now
let me ask you this about Ohio State, too.
Go ahead.
When he says that, do you think that Ohio State is one of the 75% that tries to steal signs?
To me, if you're in a Power 5 and if you're keeping up with the Joneses on facilities, you're not going to try to do this as far as the analytical and the intellect would be helpful. Here's the other thing.
Well,
Chad.
Look, if Ohio State's the one that turned them in, I don't know. I don't think they're doing to this extent. You better be sure that you're buttoned up and not doing the exact same thing.
Well, the scouting
it's
is
one
where,
thing to try to catch it during the game.
Right.
It's another thing to be sending Connor Stallions from the U.S. Naval Academy out as your director of intelligence as an operative across the Big Ten. You better be sure that if you're reporting someone, you're not doing the same thing.
So the executive director, Chad, of the American Football Coaches Association is Todd Berry. And let me scroll to his quote here. I'm going to admit to this. He was last a head coach at Louisiana Monroe. This is 2015. I'm going to admit to this. I would have fans that would go to opponents' games and film their sidelines and film just on their phones, their smartphones, and then send me that stuff. But he added, I didn't look at it because that was wrong. But he would, again, so when Michigan is saying others have been doing this, you have the executive director of the American Football Coaches Association admitting that he did it, and he's also calling it unethical. So I'm torn on this. When you have on the record the director of the American Football Coaches Association admitting that he would send fans with their phones, and then he would have them send it back, but he wouldn't look at it. Come on.
Why did he have him do it?
He said,
why would you have him do it if you don't look at it?
Right. I didn't look at it because that was wrong. Barry said you can call coaches paranoid. But I will tell you this. Anybody that denies it and says, oh, nobody's doing that, that is ridiculous. That's silly to even think that. So, I mean, there in that organization that he runs has 10,000 members. So he's speaking as the director of that group. I think the whole thing is you're just turning them in because they're extremely good at it, and they're not hiding it. And you hate Michigan. And if they can get some meat on the bone with Harbaugh, now's the time to do it because he's not going to be there for very long. Onward to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's certainly part of it because maybe
Isn't that
they're
interesting
better
quote,
than everyone else. But also maybe they're better than everyone else at doing it because they're doing more than everyone else in terms of their system they have in place.
Well, the closest I've heard to someone admitting that they were doing the same thing is Todd Berry sending fans instead of an operative.
Yeah, it's
the one thing that takes it to the next level.
It's a stupid tax.
Well, but is it illegal? That's the thing that is when the coaches are like, well, it's just unethical. But is the NCAA going to be able to say this violates the very vague rule, and they kind of hint at it's not looked on favorably, but they never outright say.
Well, it's against the rules. You can't in-person scout, period. There's nothing written about sign stealing per se, but you cannot have paid employees in-person scouting. That went away in 1995. That's what they're in violation of. When this thing is written up, it's not going to say anything about stealing signs. It's going to say all the times they violated the in-person scouting rules. That's how you skirt the rule, Hutton, is send a fan. You send a fan, and then suddenly you're not doing it. They're not associated with the program. They're not on staff.
I just find it interesting that while this is going on, you have those that are saying, oh, yeah, we did it, and here's the closest thing we did, but we didn't look. I didn't look at it.
Well, Todd Barry sounds dumb to say that.
But again,
why would you have a fan do it and go through that effort and not look at the video?
I know. And there are other coaches in here that say they can get everything they need off of just the coaches' tape, the All-22, where you can zoom in and do things. And he said, give me 3 or 4 games, I can have everything I need to know. Now, the other difference to this is you've got the guy who's doing it on the sideline with your coordinator about to call in their play, or they're going to adjust their defense or audible to something else, or make sure when the quarterback looks to the sideline, here's what we know they're about to run against you. That's the huge jump to me. It's so obvious.
I think there's been a pretty obvious big jump here. I think Michigan's gone well above and beyond.
Well,
they have a guy that's the director of this that's been doing it, that was hired as a Marine to help them with their intelligence.
Yeah.
I think they're probably quite guilty.
Guilty, but...
Guilty.
Yeah. We'll see what happens there.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
6th and Peabody, our location. Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Tonight, Game 7, the NLCS. Philadelphia's first Game 7 ever. 140 years.
Crazy.
Nuts. Right now, Philadelphia, minus 170 on the money line. If you haven't taken your shot with PointsBet, now's the perfect moment. Big reason why is exclusively for first-time PointsBet users. You can grab this offer. Right now, new PointsBet users can get up to $1,000 in second-chance bets. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, PointsBet has your back with a second chance. You get this offer by visiting OutKick.com/bet. OutKick.com/bet. You complete the registration process with PointsBet. Make your first bet. If your first bet happens to lose, that's when the second chance bets come into play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. Head to OutKick.com/bet to snag this offer. Chad.
Game 7 tonight, Hutton. You know what else is tonight?
Go ahead.
Game 1 of the softball championship series for my little team.
Yes. What's the money line?
I'm feeling the nerves a little bit. Not gonna lie. As we get closer
Red Sox
to the first
minus
pitch.
170 like the Phillies.
I don't know. We're 2-0 against the team we're playing, but this team's played really
minus
well
210.
in the last few games.
Minus
So
210.
we'll see. But I'm getting that little championship jitter. I feel it for the Phillies and the Diamondbacks tonight. I feel it for my little Red Sox in our league this evening too.
Two teams that could be referred to as Destiny's Child. Explain why you believe Philadelphia is Destiny's team this year.
Well, it's a combination of a number of things, but mainly their stars are playing like stars. Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, these guys are coming up big. Trey Turner. I just look at their star-studded lineup, and I think this is the year. They got to the World Series a year ago, lost to Houston. Houston's not in their way this year, but that has to start with a Game 7 win tonight against a feisty Arizona team.
Yeah, and recently they've jumped out to big leagues. Arizona has, just like they did against the Dodgers. But hey, at home, Philadelphia 6-1. There's a reason why Houston last night you're iffy, right? If you're like, they can't win at home. Schilling's pointed out the home record, as many have. Chad, meanwhile, Philadelphia considered to be the loudest environment, and certainly loud with the boos yesterday. I'm with you. I don't think that's going to be the case. The veteran group, the advantage of playing at home, and the Phillies back to the World Series.
Well, every team that goes on a run and wins a World Series, they've got a somewhat unexpected pitching star in October. The Phillies have that in Ranger Suarez, who's pitching this game. He was a stud in Game 1 in his short stint against the Braves, a stud in Game 4 in the clinching game against them. He's been good throughout. I think that he's also the difference in this one. I think the Phillies get it done and head to the World Series for a second straight year.
And if it's Arizona, bad.
Yeah.
Bad for viewership.
It's the Diamondbacks and the Rangers.
It'll be bad either way, probably.
Yeah, I'm not expecting great things ratings-wise.
How about the Browns wide receiver David Bell? His niece was born inside Lucas Oil Stadium during Cleveland's win over Indianapolis this past Sunday. Crazy.
Yeah.
So he played college ball at Purdue.
Yeah.
And now he's a Cleveland Brown, and, well, he's got tons of family members there, and his niece is born while the game's going on.
Was this baby early?
It would have to be, right?
This a possibility going into the game?
Yeah, it would have to be. The mom, Kareem Butler, it happened at 1:20 in the afternoon, 20 minutes after the kickoff. Niece, we went into labor, and they delivered her at 1:20, so it's a really exciting day today.
I believe the baby was supposed to, was due on October 26th, so that would be this coming Thursday.
So it's a lot like Sean McVay's situation, right?
Can I be frank about
Where he
this
was
story?
he could have missed the game recently, but it didn't happen.
May I be honest about this story?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Way too close to the due date to be going to an NFL football game. 26th?
She went into labor.
That's Thursday.
She went into labor.
This
as they
was
were
Sunday?
Crossing the street. Yeah.
Okay.
Sunday. This past Sunday.
All right. I
Browns won.
Look, there are plenty of people who pretend they have an MD. I do not have an MD, so I'm not one to say this, but I bet if we got a doctor on here right now, a baby delivering doctor on the show, if Cliff Huxtable, bad representative, sorry, he's been canceled. If there was an actual doctor on here, not Bill Cosby playing a doctor, And we polled that doctor about the decision 4 days away from the due date to go to an NFL football game.
How about Dr. David Chow?
I'm willing to bet most doctors that aren't of the very herbal, natural variety would advise the mother to stay home, to be in a place where she can quickly get to her doctor, not crossing the street going to an NFL game. I'm just going to throw that out there. But again,
I agree.
I raise my hand and I fully admit, not a doctor, but I bet that's what a doctor would say. But I'm happy that mom, baby, everyone is okay. We're thrilled to hear that news.
That sounds insane, as does to me jumping to Katie Nolan, who admits how many unread emails she has and notifications on her phone. 22,922 unread emails on her phone. This would be the bane of my existence, seeing that.
Can you see the number on my mail? And you want to read it for everyone?
Where is your mail?
It's right
there. Oh,
there.
yeah, so you have it very hidden here. Does your phone get mail? 4,052. 4,052 for Chad Withrow.
Is it simply a junk mail?
I don't know how to clear it. I read my email online. Yeah, it's all on there.
You don't have it synced up.
I don't read email. Yeah, I've got 2 different email accounts, Gmail and a work account. This is my Gmail account attached. So every bit of junk mail comes in, goes here. If I delete it, it goes into the junk mail folder on my Gmail account on my computer, but it goes right to my phone here. So most of these I don't even see, but I open them, all my new emails from actual people on Gmail, and then read them, but it doesn't make it go away from here.
Well, there's a button you can simply just go in and click mark all as read, and then it will clear out that number
Doesn't
for
do
you.
it. I've done that on my phone, and that number continues to go up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark all as red's been around for a minute or two, Hut.
I will do it right
So
now, Dave,
has
if you'd like to
Chad's
see
phone.
it. I will put mark all as red, and it will not. That
So has
number will
Chad's
not go
phone.
away. It will only go up.
How many do you have, Hut?
I'm looking right now. I have 54 currently, and that's
Okay.
without me really going through these today. So yeah, 54 unread emails, and that was as of really the start of the show. A lot of it is this whatever subscription service that I was randomly subscribed through work, and pressers from SIDs and or media relations directors across the NFL.
Do you ever take the time to actually go in and unsubscribe to a list?
Oh yeah.
If you're on it? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what I can do is just put today's emails on there, maybe that I'm seeing, and then change it to that, and then it'll go away.
It'll drop down to like 3,000.
Let's see what happens when I do that.
Your phone may die.
This may be the death of it.
Yeah, this is what Verizon's been waiting on. They have been waiting on the opportunity to zap your phone. Because I long said,
it's
even
still
before,
at 4,052.
even before, not Verizon, Apple, even before Apple admitted to sabotaging their own devices, I long said, Chad, back me up on this.
Yeah, you were way ahead of this one.
My conspiracy theory, when you have an update on your phone, they were draining your battery on purpose. And, oh, by the way, it was around a holiday, or it was when they had a new version of the iPhone coming out. You're going to see those ads, or you're going to be related to or with someone that's going through this as they update their phone at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night because it was charging. And I never try to say, yes, update. Because I know exactly what they're doing. I've got the model twice removed from the one they're putting out now, and I know it's about that time to cut my battery off by about 60% on the strength of the device.
You nailed it. You were way ahead on this one.
They want you to go buy the new equipment.
You had the story a long time ago. I'll also say that my wife, Angie, had to go get her phone fixed today because it just went out, would not charge back up, would not turn on. Had to take it to the Apple store, and they were able to repair it. She's got one of the newer iPhones. My old iPhone right here has never come close to doing anything like that. I truly believe this iPhone 6 predates what Hutton is talking about, and there's no Apple update that can infect this phone. I'm knocking on wood.
Except through email if you
as
open
I
it.
say this. But no, it's just.
No, I'm saying if you open the email, 4,062.
Oh, no. I open email on here all the time. It just continues to pile up if I want to. If I know that I'm going to see something like.
You haven't opened the right one.
You know, like when I get free sweet tickets or whatever it may be, it'll come to my account, as I tend to do.
Yeah.
So I'll have to go into my phone and go into the Gmail, and I'll get the email right there and click on it and have it no problem. But that's just one of those 4,000 and such odd emails going away. The rest are still there.
I still play NCAA football from like 2014, and it'll say like the servers are no longer available. Like Chad's device has made it to that point. They're no longer available.
I mean, at some point, I'm going to be able to sell this puppy online for a lot of money.
They finally weeded out.
Especially when it continues to work.
My mom did not want to get rid of her flip phone. She gives zero about the iPhone. Did not want. She just wanted it whenever she was
she liked
out
the
doing her thing on
feeling
the
of
farm.
it flipping. Like someone
not even the
might
feeling.
like
it was just she knew how to work it. She didn't really care about having certain apps. Not into it. Not into it.
My dad
and
likes
they
the feeling of
forced
a
her-
crisp newspaper in his
They
hands.
forced her to get an actual iPhone, and she figured out how to work it.
I still have my iPod
They're about
Touch.
to do that with Chad.
They they don't make iPod touches anymore,
No,
right?
this is from 2008, I would say. It's probably around the same time your phone came out.
I've got the push button at the bottom, which they don't make anymore.
The home button?
Yeah.
The home button, yes, thank you. That I like it. There's no reason to change it.
You adjust pretty quickly
You have the
once you
push
get rid of
button.
it.
You don't have the fingerprint acknowledgement, right?
I also don't think that there's going to be something. I mean, I have worked other iPhones of the newer variety. I don't think
Facial
I'm missing
login.
out anything on these iPhones that I'm going to get the new iPhone. But oh my gosh, this is a new. This is like seeing in high definition for the first time. They all have the same functions. I get on every app I need to on this iPhone.
You'd be surprised. I went. It's kind of like in the automobile industry. I went from an 01 Blazer to a 2022 Toyota Camry, and I didn't know how to operate like the first day in that car. Everything was so different.
Well, I mean, look, if you're making movies on your phone like they're advertising now, if you're in cinema mode and filming things, get the new iPhone or the newest smartphone to do that.
They go sign a contract with Netflix.
I'm not doing any of that. Yeah, I'm not making any of the short films that I've written into an iPhone movie. So I'm fine with this iPhone.
You just need call, text, and Twitter.
Call, text, Twitter, sports betting apps, Instagram. All of them look exactly the same on my phone as they do on yours or anyone else's.
My favorite phone to this day was my old BlackBerry.
People that the
With
BlackBerry,
the trackball.
The BlackBerry movie's good, by the way. Just titled BlackBerry, about the formation of that company.
The trackball.
People that own the BlackBerry love it.
I loved it.
Love it.
I loved it. My mom, who's a labor and delivery nurse, Chad, she's listening. The first time I think she's ever chimed in while listening. Maybe the first. Here we go. Tell Chad he put out some good information on a pregnant woman that chose close to her due date to go to a ball game.
Yes. So she agrees with me.
She agrees.
That's good information.
Good information. Davey, maybe...
Again, not a doctor, but I'm happy to hear from the medical field on that.
Yeah, yes. Great strategy for a lottery winner recently?
I mean, I guess you could say it's great. It's just strange, and you would think...
$22 million, right?
In today's age, correct. But this man, he decided not to tell anyone except his wife.
I think that's smart.
And so he has 2 teenage kids, and the kids don't even know. Now, apparently he called in to Dave Ramsey. Well, I don't think he gave a real name. So, but the idea is, and like I can respect this. He's not going to tell his kids. They're going to continue to go through college, find their way. They're not quitting their jobs, keeping the same vehicles. The house was paid off beforehand. So this money's just sitting to where they have a couple of people that know how to handle such large finances and managing that fund pretty much.
Does this family already have money?
It didn't seem like they had money. They were a nice middle-class family that had paid off all their debt and just,
It's really smart.
Cut up their credit cards.
Clearly use the Ramsey method if they're listening to the show.
Driving a 2001 Honda Accord.
And so eventually he's like, we'll eventually tell our kids, but none of our family knows, so nobody's asking for handouts. And they're just like, we're just going to keep living our daily life.
I do think that would make it far less stressful. But if this were the NCAA looking into it, the media would figure out who this person is and tell the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Social media investigators would be all over it.
We're taking the Phillies. Hopefully we're right. Join us there. OutKick.com/bet. Join us tomorrow at 3 Eastern.